It's Flanders Cycling Week. It's cobbles time. E3 Harelbeke, a race named after a road it doesn't go near, and it's going to be some exciting fare coming our way very shortly as we look forward to some great action. 206.1 kilometers in total for the riders today. We've got the best racers in Flanders cycling and in Northern European classics action as we survey the scene at the start today. Greg van Avermaet among the 199 riders that make their way away from the start in Harelbeke, a small town near Kortrijk. And relatively balmy conditions by the standards of classics racing. We've seen over recent years that it can be a little bit windy and a little bit wet. Well, there's no sign of any rain today. The wind, a relatively benign 19 kilometers an hour. And the flag flutters. And Peter Sagan is among those, recent winner of this race. And of course the reigning world champion. And right from the get-go, as you might expect, the effort to get into the early break of the day was significant. This is the crash that befell Dyer Quintana of Team Movistar. It's been a tough few days for the Movistar squad. They've had riders on the deck on several occasions, and indeed I think Dyer Quintana himself was off the bike in Dwarsdorp-Vlaanderen. Hopefully he'll be able to make a quick recovery. Let's have a quick look and survey the route of what's a pretty complicated one, as you might expect. Lots of cobbles, lots of climbs along the way. 15 Hellingen or coat or climbs, 6 of them are cobbled, and then we've got 5 separate sections of Kaisai Struck, the cobbled sections along the way, pave they might call it sometimes. Total of 11 trips across the cobbles, and there is the circuitous route that they take through Flanders in order to seek out some of the most famous climbs in cycling history. There's the complete list. The Tegenberg is the final assault, the final ascent, quite away from the line, but typically this race, it's a mini Tour of Flanders, that's what they call it, and as I say, typically it tends to end up in a small group or maybe a solo rider going to the line. That's what happened 12 months ago. Michal Kwiatkowski was the victor on that occasion. He's not defending his title. He's trying to stay clear of the cobbles. He has designs on the Ardennes Classics a little bit later in classic season. So that's good news for Peter Sagan and so many of the other top contenders, with an eye on Gent-Wevelgem and indeed on Tour of Flanders coming up. And we will have that for you here on Eurosport throughout the next couple of weeks. This is the breakaway group that have finally managed to wrestle themselves clear of the main peloton. I can tell you it's taken a long time, well over 120 kilometers, probably closer to 130 kilometers before the break managed to extricate itself from the bunch. There's a group of 6 have race clear. Alexis Goujar on the right hand side of picture for AG Tour Le Mondial is there. Laurens de Vries is on the front for Team Astana at the moment, the Belgian rider. David Pair for Bahrain Merida on the left-hand side here, number 77. At the back of the group for Rompot Nederlandse Lotterij, to give them their full title. That's Taco van der Hoorn, complete Netherlands-Dutch lineup. Look at this, great crowds here, as you will expect. They'll be racing across to the next climb, and we've got, as I say, total of 15, and the riders have several of those completed to this point in the proceedings. Perfect conditions for viewing bike racing, and there's not too many people in offices working too hard in Belgium this afternoon. If they're in the office at all, probably have the telly on, just keeping a weather eye on proceedings in E3 Harelbeke. 2 minutes and 6 seconds to the third group on the road, and 4:47 back to the main peloton. Riders trying to make their way across, and well, De Bont is a forlorn figure at the moment, trying to chase and trying to battle his way up this climb to get himself into contention. At least he has the, I suppose, advantage of being able to pick his spot and pick his route across the cobbles. Tom van Asbroek and Miguel Delage are in good shape as well, as they the Frenchman on the left-hand side goes for the cobbles on the left, whereas Van Asbroek, well, he's a Belgian, and he has no problems at all going in the middle of the road. They're trying to chase down that pursuer, but more particularly the main group, or at least the leading group of 6 riders up front. Alongside me, Brian Smith, as he was on Wednesday, as he will be again at the weekend. We've got some great couples action this afternoon, Brian. And it looks like this is a hard-fought one already. Took a long time for the break to establish itself today. What does that tell us?
Well, I think what it tells us is no one was wanting anybody to go down the road. Nobody wanted to have a long day of kind of chasing or controlling the race from the front. We saw from the other day, Eduardo Vlaanderen, that the tactics of Quick Step were spot on. They put riders in the breakaway, they had numbers, and I think a lot of the other teams looked at that and they thought, well, we're not letting anybody disappear down the road. But eventually the right break did go with the 6 riders. Took a little bit, and now we see a chasing duo of Tom van Asbroek of Cannondale in the lime green at the front there, just taking a bottle, and Delage of Franchet de Joux. Well, they've got 2 minutes to go across. I think it's going to be very difficult for them. It's going to be a very difficult chase for them. But you can see the size of the peloton now. It's fairly large. That'll whittle down because we do have got 15 climbs today. This is the 3rd climb of the day. They're on the Old Kreuzberg, or they've just gone over the top of it. The leaders anyway, at 800 meters, 9%, maximum 4.8%. On average. As we see yet another crash. We've seen so many crashes today. In fact, one of the maybe favourites of today from L'Auto Soudal was crashed out, Tony Galopin. So he has been on the deck. As you see, Sylvain Chavanel, former French champion, has been on the deck, but there's so many others. We've already seen Dare Quintana, Mati Brescia's involved in the crash, Christian Knaes was involved with the Tony Galopin. So a lot of crashes today in this race, meaning that you really have to be vigilant and look after yourself.
Well, Sylvain Chavanel wearing Dossard number 1, the one on the end, would well, it often tells you that rider is the leader of the team, and certainly has an elevated status in world cycling, and he certainly knows his way around the cobbles. He's been riding for a long time now, very much a veteran of the sport, so he'll be able to battle his way back in. I don't think there was too much harm done there. Not great news, I suppose, for his fellow countryman Tony Galopin, because the Lotto Soudal man, well, he was intended to be one of the protected riders. Problems, and it's always a technical achievement to get round any one of these cobbled races without any difficulties whatsoever. So riders coming to grief as they make their way up this 3rd climb, the Oud Kreuzberg, 800 meters in total, just under 5% on average. Let's pick up that crash in the middle of the bunch. Just a bit of a squeeze as they went round the corner. Riders clambering to try and get into position and pinch a bit on the inside. Bit of a squeeze. Chavanel, no panic from him, straightens the bars. Always you'll find pro bikes are set up and they make sure that they don't over tighten those handlebars, because a little bit of give is a useful thing. It means you can straighten them without things breaking. No panic from Chavanel. Meanwhile, Quick Step to the front of the peloton, 450 to the group up front. Took a while for that break to establish, but it has managed to open up a decent advantage, so finds itself 450 to the good. But now, as they have this climb to contend with, 3 of 15, there's still 12 to go after this in terms of assaults. So Quick Step looking to control things on the front of the peloton. A few breaks to get out of the way. We'll go with the first one of the day. Back to you after these. You're looking at the leading group of 6 riders that are clear in the, well, as we're getting close to the final stages of E3. Harelbeke, we're in Flanders Cycling Week. We've already had some great action in Dwars Vlaanderen, Gent-Wevelgem coming up on Sunday. Many of those riders are involved again today, and it's a 6-rider group that are clear of the main pack, which is starting to get itself organised behind as we work our way through the various cobble sections and the various Helligen climbs that they have to contend with. Bahrain Merida have managed to infiltrate this break. It wasn't easy to get in there, I can tell you. David Per, Slovenian rider, is in there. Michal Kwiatkowski, the reigning champ, he's not here today, but neither indeed is Geraint Thomas, who won 2015. Peter Sagan certainly is, though. 2014 winner. is nestling in the main peloton at the moment. Tom Bonin, victor in 2012, also victor in 2007, 5 times a winner of E3. Harelbeke, he's the record holder in terms of victories. He's on something of a retirement tour. He's within the last month of his cycling career. Could Tom Bonin come up with a really good send-off this afternoon? He seems to be in fairly good form, and he'll be using this as a big wind-up for battles to come. Jens Kukelaer, a strong man for the classics for Orica Scott. The old postman dismount. Don't see too many of those. Back wheel change, not absolutely flying, but assists the mechanic. And for Orica Scott, they had a great day in Dwars Vlaanderen in terms of competitiveness with several riders, not least, of course, Luke Durbridge. Ended up with a fine 4th place finish. And I think for Durbridge, signs that he's really breaking through as a classics man. Jens Kukelaer is useful assistant there as well. Plenty of punctures making themselves evident. It's Gediminas Bagdonas, who's another strong man, the Lithuanian rider. And looks like there's been a spill. Oh, indeed. Several riders, a couple of riders down there from Team Sunweb. And indeed, Orica Scott have another rider coming to grief. Mitch Docker hits the deck. And there are a few sore arms there as well. Could be a collarbone. Well, we don't like to speculate. Let's hope that he's able to get back in the fray. Front wheel significantly buckled. You don't see that too much these days with carbon fibre. It looks like a rolled tub as well, and it's a disc wheel on the front. Sometimes I suppose when the wheel buckles like that, the tub is more likely to roll off. You can't be sure that was what actually caused it in the first place.
Well, that was in fact Tunison, who was towards the 4 in Dwars Vlaanderen. So you're just going to see it now as riders come down pretty much fairly close to the front of the peloton, and nothing you can do, no place to move. And unfortunately for Tunison, who's been showing some good form of recent, and has been enjoying his free reign with Sunweb, doesn't look as if he'll be back in this race today.
Yeah, 16th place in Dwars Vlaanderen. He was the best finisher for Team Sunweb on that occasion, so that's bad news for Mike Tunison, who, as he says, is in good form. Very interesting that so many of the riders had pushed over into the right-hand ditch. They already felt that there might be a crash coming. They can almost sense it. Sometimes you can hear it, sometimes you can just smell it. So next climb of the day for the group up front there, safely clear of all the danger, and that's useful, isn't it? I mean, you know, one of the great advantages of being in the break is you just get away from all that lunacy behind.
Yeah, of course you do, but you're still wasting quite a lot of... It's easier, but in the long run you're wasting a lot of energy in the breakaway with 6 riders. But this is what they're racing for. This is why they're trying to get good road position, because the peloton will be at the bottom of the Nocteberg, which is just over 1,500 metres, 13.3% maximum, 5.3. Comes with, as I said, just about 87 kilometres to go from the finish. But anything can happen in this small roads, and that's what you have to do. And it's the same with any of the cobble classics. Whenever there's a pavé section, whenever there's a climb coming up, you have to fight for position. And when you've got a big bunch of 25 teams, all with 8 riders starting, it's a fairly large bunch. And today we have got 6 cobble climbs, and the other 9 climbs are non-pavé climbs, as you see one of them now. But the rider at front, Gouja, the 24-year-old French rider, good rider, won a stage of the Vuelta back in 2015, but it did take quite a long while for the breakaway to go, which means that the combinations weren't right. But just look at the size of the peloton. It's still most of the contender. People have crashed out. Tony Galopin doesn't look good for Tunison as well for Sunweb, but a large peloton. A good day in Belgium, but maybe not for some that have already crashed out.
Yeah, about 2 hours to go of racing, but I'll tell you what, that peloton's not going to be that size by the conclusion. This one tends to break up. It's they call it the mini Tour of Flanders. It's shorter, of course, so that doesn't require quite as much endurance, but they tend to pack more into the 206 kilometers, and that, of course, has an effect on the size of the peloton at the back end, doesn't it? It really is a tough day out.
Oh, it's any Belgian race is tough, whether it's the flat or in the climbs, and Yeah, we're lucky that the riders have got a nice sunny day. Belgium's completely different in the rain and the wind, but you can see the teams, the strong teams, have come towards the front. They're looking after. They're not really pushing on too much. They're just looking for a good position. And Katusha there with Nils Pollitt, Collidan looking after their riders. John Degenkolb is here for Trek Segafredo, so is Jasper Stuyven, Christian Knees, who was on the deck earlier today. Behind him Stannard as well. So there's a lot of riders pushing and shoving, little road space, and even as you get further down, the concertina effect is mean stop start, and that kind of saps the energy from your legs.
Yeah, riders on the right hand side of the bunch thought they were in good position. Suddenly there's a bit of a stall on that side, and you lose 30 places in the blink of an eye. There's not too many riders in there at the moment that are risking the blink of an eye. It's massive concentration just to maintain position, just to stay upright. And the best place to be, at the front. Nils Pollitt, as you say, did a monster turn, didn't he, for the Katusha squad in Dwarstor of Vlaanderen, and he's back on duty again, looking after Alexander Kristoff on this occasion. The Knokteberg, there's the vital statistics. 13.3% is the maximum gradient that they get up to, so it's not the worst, but it's far from the easiest either.
But the thing about it is, Declan, if someone puts a hammer down on this climb to split the peloton because of the crashes, it doesn't look as if anybody's interested at the moment, but if somebody was interested in putting the hammer down on this climb, this race could split in 5 or 6 groups. So it's been at the right place. This is a sort of a race that okay, it's a little bit shorter than the Tour of Flanders, 206 kilometres, but you have to be at the front, because as soon as a team goes bang, this race can split all over the place.
Weather conditions are pretty good though, so that might might help a few more riders be in contention at the back end.
Yeah, I would think so. The weather is meaning that there's probably more involved at this time, but you know, it's been kept together a lot, the peloton. For the first kind of 60 kilometres, there wasn't even a breakaway. There was lots of attempts, but nobody in the breakaway. But certainly the weather conditions helps everybody.
Relatively benign at the moment, but those riders at the back, well, they will be fingers and toes crossed that nothing too aggressive happens. Christian Knees, as Brian has mentioned, the flashes on his sleeves indicating his status as a former German national champion. Look at the way those riders on the front aren't, they haven't stopped riding, but they haven't gone absolutely flat chat, and as a result there's just a bunching up. And anyone who's ridden the Tour of Flanders Sportive or any of the big Sportive events, we've got literally thousands of riders, well, they know all about that, having to unclip and sometimes walk up the hill just for sheer congestion reasons. There's a smaller bunch, around about 200 riders, but still, for all that, you do get those congestion issues. And Ludwig de Winter of Varen Classic Equality Protect in the Dayglow yellow and black colours now finds himself in that situation. He's still on the bike, still in position, but there's a real sense that this one has yet to ignite. The 6 riders up front, and de Winter's teammate Christophe Masson is among them for the Varen Classic Equality Protect. There's Gujar, as we've mentioned before, GC in Tour de Eurometropole a couple of years ago as well, so super strong rider. David Per, the 22-year-old from Slovenia, first year on the World Tour, tall figure from the Adria Mobile squad last year. Gujar's doing plenty of turns, isn't he? He's not found wanting at the moment. And a couple of riders just taking their time to get back into the rotation, maybe grabbing a little bit of food. Kies van Hoek among them for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. Taco van der Hoorn is there as well, the Dutchman for Team Rompot. So yet quite to ignite. Time for a little bit of feeding among the break, and we're going to take that opportunity too, back after these. The peloton are approaching the 5th climb of the day, the Hottenberg, 1,200 metres in total. The break have already been through it. E3 Harelbeke is starting to work its way into action. Took a long time for the early breakaway to establish itself. When it did, well, they've been managing a gap of about 4.5 minutes. Jure Sagan is battling his way to the front of the peloton. The Slovakian national champion. His brother, of course, wearing the rainbow stripes of world champion. Last 2 years, a victor in this race in 2014. And who would bet against him this afternoon on absolutely stonking form, just missing out in Milan-San Remo. But already a multi-winner this year, and tends to ignite things. He ignited it last year as well. He was the one that kicked it off. Went away with Michał Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski eventually had the strength to distance the reigning world champion. And Kwiatkowski went on to take a solo victory ahead of Peter Sagan. No Kwiatkowski this year, so that has left it up to Sagan. It's left it free for him. And Kwiatkowski, his Team Sky squad have Luke Rowe, Ian Stannard, and perhaps Gianni Moscon. Several others in there as well. It's a very strong classics lineup for Team Sky. We've already seen Christian Knaes from Germany doing a solid job of policing and managing his team and making sure they're in perfect prime position towards the front of the bunch, towards the front of the right-hand side for the most part. Just drop back a little bit in recent moments, but still you can be pretty sure they're not too far away. Trek moving up on the right as BMC, well, they need all the help that they can get for Greg van Avermaet. That's Floris Hertz. We saw in similar difficulty in Dwars door Vlaanderen.
Exactly,
he's not getting a lot of luck.
Exactly the same, 2 days running, and just punctures at the wrong time. I can sense, well, you can see it in the faces of Quinziato, that everybody knows that something's going to happen soon. And you know, it was a fairly easy start for a lot of teams. There was no big breakaway, but now the race is on for position. There's a few decent climbs coming up, and everybody's fighting for a good position. So there's a lot of nerves. Marcus Burkhardt comes towards the front for Bora as well, but you can just see Trek Segafredo in the red and the black, and something's going to happen, and something's going to happen soon. There's a few climbs coming up. We're just coming up to the next climb, which is a paved climb, Hottenberg, which is 1,200 meters long. Then we get another climb, and then I think the Tainberg, the cobble climb at 18% could be the point that everybody's trying to get a good position for, because it's coming up in about just less than 8 kilometers time now. So as I said, we've seen many riders go on the attack on that climb in the past, and I think that's why the pace is up, because at this pace it will take 10-15 kilometers to get to the front. So this is why you see a lot of the teams pushing for position. So they've told 10 kilometers before that climb, make sure you're at the front.
That one went on for about a week, didn't it? And almost everyone could sense it even before it happened. So that was a difficult moment for Andrei Grivko. For Alexei Lutsenko is down as well. It's actually Lutsenko, was it? He's in stunning form. Third place finish in Dwars door Vlaanderen, indicating that he's the man to protect for Team Astana. Half the team stopped to assist him. So it just went on for about a fortnight, didn't it? It went one way and the other, and he looked like he was going to stay upright, but just too much momentum. And the seas parted around him. Let's get a look at it again. Just a bit of a jostling with one of the Quick-Step riders. And Quick-Step manages to survive. That's just a frustrating one, isn't it?
Yeah, just get caught in the back wheel. Just a bit of an overlap and a squeeze. And Lutsenko, we've already seen podium in Dwars door Vlaanderen, and that's why the team are all waiting for him. He is probably come of age in the classics now, just like Durbridge the other day. But I tell you what, if Astana don't get him back in the next few kilometres, it's going to be very difficult, because you see a lot of... Luke Rowe's up there. He can't even get a chance to get the gel down. He knows. And Luke is an experienced rider. You can just see the Quick-Step coming towards the front. You see Christoph or Katusha getting helped. All the strong teams are coming towards the front. Marcus Burkhardt is saying, like, slow down a little bit, because they've got good road space. So this is what happens in these races. The strong riders come to the front to try and kind of slow it down, because they've already got position. They kind of bunch across the front to make sure no one else can move up, because if you risk moving up, you risk crashing. But they'll stay like this. They'll stay like this for the next maybe 2 or 3 kilometers, get their breath. But it's looking like the next of the cobble climbs in this race is going to be, you know, the key to the big team starting to race.
Yeah, and the hammer is down. There's no doubt about it. Just picked out Peter Sagan sitting in the middle of the group and just surfing that channel of death down the centre of the road without too much difficulty, taking the maximum amount of shelter, optimum position. Quick step to the fore, and we got a shot just before that little issue for Lutsenko of Philippe Gilbert in his Belgian national champions colours, and his face was a picture of pain. And given the sort of form he's demonstrated in Dwars of Vlaanderen and finishing second in the 1-2, more problems. Lotto Soudal find themselves with riders off the back, surely a protected rider given the numbers of riders, and indeed Francis de Just, similar situation, 2 riders going back. Interesting, Matty Breschel went back for Lutsenko, because you might have thought that they might be looking after him a little bit, but it's all eyes, I think, for that squad on Lutsenko.
Yeah, I would think so after his performance the other day, but you can just see the blue jerseys now. They know the race is going to be on, so they're trying to get as many of the Quick Step team, which is on paper the strongest team there, but it just goes to show you the amount of punctures. What's happening is they're all racing at the front. They know they can sense it. When the strongest team goes to the front of the race, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's you know, the red lights are going off. They're all racing for this small roads, and you take some risks. You ride up in the gravel, and what we're seeing now is the fact that some people are puncturing because of that.
So the Cortacar is the next assault, climb 6 on the list, 1,000 metres in total, 6.4%, max of 17%. It is a smooth road at least, but you can tell from these riders that this is no easy climb. And already, well, they're down to 3:37, so in the blink of an eye they've lost a minute of their advantage. They got to hope that things slow down a little bit at the front of the peloton if they're to enjoy an extended period out front. But we're getting into the business end of this, not quite in the final as it might be described, but you can be sure that 80 kilometres to go would have come up in team meetings, judging by the way that they're riding right now.
Declan, you see the size of the road here, right? They're not racing for, they're not racing full gas for the finish. They're racing to get good position for this climb, not particularly for this climb, because in about 3 or 4 kilometres after this climb, you come to the second of the cobble climbs, the Teenberg, at 18%. Okay, it's only 650 metres, but it's a bit of a brute, and that's why they're racing, because what they'll do is they'll get good position on here. They'll just calm it down a little bit, go over the top, race full gas onto the climb, and I think we're going to see this peloton split into pieces.
Yeah, 2 climbs in quick succession is going to be a bit of a leg breaker for the riders in there. And remember, the second one is a cobble climb, short but less than sweet, as Brian has indicated with those statistics, max 18%. That comes, just about 4 kilometres after this one. More problems, riders coming to grief. This time Team Skyfinder, Wayne Dool, sampling Belgian classics.
I think he gave Stannard a wheel, looks like. I think he stopped and gave Stannard a wheel, because Stannard is probably more of the protected rider, but Team Sky had a good car position, so that they were able to get there.
Yeah, and Stannard waited for Dool, so he wants those legs to try and get him back in there.
Dool gave his wheel to Stannard, and then you can just see now, carnage at the back of the field as well. It looks as if the Orica, is that Orica or is it Wanty involved there? So yeah, people taking risks. Set Van Mark up towards the front, so it is the boys from Wanty trying to help here, and they've got Van Kersbroek, the rider, one of the riders involved here with a puncture.
Guillaume Van Kersbroek is in absolutely flying form. Superb win in Les Samines just a few short weeks ago, so if he's maintained that form, he should be able to get back into contention, but it's a match burned and not exactly at an ideal situation. The place to be is right on the front.
Yes, what we're saying earlier, big battle to get to the front. Now that they're on the front, you can just see they're starting to calm down. They'll calm down, but they'll accelerate over the top because they want good position for the Teenberg.
Bunch hit the Cortacar. There's carnage at the back of the peloton. As you might expect, it's E3 Harelbeke, and this is tough Belgian classics racing. Another climb, another coat, another opportunity for the superstars to put the squeeze on riders at the back of the peloton. Several have suffered from crashes, many more from punctures. And here it looks like there could be another issue. Adrien Petit for Direct Energy, the French squad. His fellow countryman from Francis de Just has attacked the peloton. Olivier Legac finds himself with a narrow advantage over the main peloton, and we have that group of 6 up front, maintaining and managing and hanging on to what they have at the moment. The block has gone on at the front as Quick Step have managed to get riders into prime position. Cannondale as well are also there. Trek, Katusha, Lotto Soudal and Team UAE, so are all looking in prime position at the moment. Looks like Luke Rowe as well to the fore for Team Sky.
Well, that's just a key moment there. Like we were just saying just before the break there, that as soon as we go over the top of this climb, teams will come to the front and start pushing on, and you just saw Elio Kaiser straight to the front, keeping the pressure on, and it's extended the peloton, and now the race is on for the Tainberg, the next of the climbs, and they don't want anybody that's been pushed out of position. One of the riders that was unfortunate, punctured before that last climb, was in fact Thijs Benoot of Lotto Soudal. So he's one rider that can feature today, but if you're at the back of this string now, I don't think it's going to be a very hard chase. Look, you look at last year with Fabian Cancellara. When he punctured, he had to wait. He was in the back group, and he came from the back group all the way to pretty much the front group again. It's going to take a superhuman effort from if you're too far back now.
Thijs Benoot was 7th last year, of course, and he's a protected rider for Lotto Soudal. Both their protected riders have had difficulties so far today. Tony Galopin has had a crash, although we understand he's back in the peloton at the moment.
Who's that, Tony Galopin? No, he's off to hospital in Oudenaarde now. It was a really bad incident. But I was just watching there, Sepp van Mark pushing up there for Cannondale. He wants the front positions. Tom Bonnen is right up there towards the front. So this is pushing and shoving. This is the big riders now pushing and shoving to get to the front for the Tainberg, because they all realise that with Elio Kaiser pushing it out in front, this Quick Step have to go on the attack. They want the masses towards the front. They've got the strength and numbers towards the front, and everybody's pushing for every inch of tarmac at the moment.
Well, Sepp van Mark looks like he's recovered from that difficulty. He had a rib injury following his crash in Strade Bianche, and then he says that the ribs are not really an issue. They're not affecting him on the bike, and he's pretty much recovered from them. Didn't have a great day out in Dwars-Vlaanderen. Put that down to a little bit of a dicky tum. Had a few too many toilet visits just ahead of that race, so not really on fine form, but looks as if he's got the strength to be in contention and be in the right position at the moment in E3 Harelbeke. So Sepp van Mark for Team Cannondale in the green, sitting about 5th wheel in the peloton at the moment.
Look, there's 4 Quick Step riders in front of him in the blue, and still Sepp van Mark is pushing to get further up, because he knows as soon as we hit this climb, he reckons that it's just going to go bang. And luckily for the 6 riders in front, they don't have to battle to get on position. But just look at the crowds, magnificent crowds out in the course today. Everybody expecting that this is going to be the place that the big riders like Bonnen and possibly some other riders are going to go on the attack there. Now the Quick Step are lining in front of the peloton. They're fighting for this position, and we're going to see the first major attacks of the race.
It's a famous climb, and as befits its status, there's a huge crowd out to watch. And Laurens de Vries of Belgium even, and the Astana squad has the honour of leading the breakaway group up the channel on the right-hand side. Optimum position in terms of the road surface underneath. But I tell you what, it's not going to be as easy to pick your spot when the bunch come through in just over 3 minutes' time, because this is going to be a big scrap to get into position. Sepp van Mark knows it. Absolutely every single one of the other riders in that peloton know it. They all know it, but not every one of them is going to be able to manage to get into the top position. So it's a series of races, 15 climbs, another 5 further cobbled sectors, and each one of those is an appointment for the riders.
Yeah, they know. They've already had it, but and they've already probably got it in their stems as well. This is the parts that you have to be in front, but it's not being in front at that particular time.
Crashes behind.
Quick Step. It's Terpstra, look as if it's down, but
I think it could be
he's
Van
just
Mark
going to wait.
well, and
so just have to wait and see who this is. But this doesn't look good at all.
So a difficult moment for one of the Quick Step riders. Finds himself with the bike on top, and well, there is a little bit of movement there, but let's hope that some support can be got as quickly as possible.
Is it Jack Bauer? Just trying to see who it is. Well, get him off the roads.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, Jack Bauer. I think that's a good pick, Brian. Indeed, it is. New Zealander in his first year with the Quick Step squad. They needed his legs, and unfortunately, at least one of those seems to be in big difficulty. So that's a bad moment for Jack Bauer. Difficult moment for him in his career. Let's get a replay, see if we can pick it up. And just unfortunately, the road surface didn't quite have the grip that he required. Terpstra comes to grief
as well.
Yeah, it was Van Mark.
But you see the reaction. Seth Van Mark knows this is a key moment. Peter Sagan goes through the picture now, running, jumping on the bike. Terpstra, no care for his teammate, just straight on the bike. They know this is a crisis point, a red flag point for all the teams, and they have to get to the front.
It's every man for himself. Terpstra, of course, would be a protected rider, and missed out on the big opportunity last year on the Tyenberg. It is Quick Step that are controlling its Tornado, and it's the top riders from Quick Step BMC. Here comes Peter Sagan sitting in third place as well, so the cream is rising to the top.
Yeah, this is Tom Bunnan, and it was expected that Tom Bunnan, he's attacked in this climb before. So on the Tyenberg, Tom Bunnan pushing hard on the front. Daniel Oss in second place. The world champion is in third place. Just behind you see Stuyven. You can see the Belgian champion, Philippe Gilbert, also John Degenkolb right up towards the front. But we just have to wait and see what damage it does. As we see just at the back in the lime green, I'm not too sure if that is in fact Seth Van Mark. I'm not too sure it is. I think it looks more like it's Sebastian Langeveld or Dylan Van Bart's made it there, but Sky trying to chase across here now, but yeah, it's all hell is let loose on this climb. But Tom Bunnan not giving it full gas. He's probably got it in his ear that there's been some problems for the rest of his team. He is the only rider in the blue towards the front, although they've got Philippe Gilbert. I look behind, he's not pushing on. He wants the other riders, but that was exciting few kilometres there.
And good signs of good signals for Tornado Tom, isn't there? Tom Bonin, as I said, within a month of the end of his career, but still has the motivation and the strength to really get those legs turning. Philippe Gilbert goes to the front, try and put manners on it, set a tempo that he's satisfied with. Daniel Oss is thereabouts as well. He's done well in this race in the past. Top 10 finishes galore, and riders frantically trying to make the junction. This could be key because there's a bit of a split there, and the group behind isn't as big as the one ahead, and the group behind that as well. Well, look at the way it's split to bits on that Tyenberg climb.
Yeah, this was expected, and that's why the battle of the last 10 kilometres as riders were just vying for position. But it really all depends, Declan, on the makeup of this front group. I don't think there's enough Quick Step riders here. Saying that, you go back to the front, and Philippe Gilbert, the Belgian champion, is pushing hard, and then we get Direct Energy, UAE involved here, but I'm not too sure that Quick Step will be more than happy with the numbers at the front here.
Just under 70k to go. Direct Energy on the front. They've got a bit of chasing to do. Well, it looked like there was a little bit of throttling back from Tom Bonin after leading the field up to Tyenberg. Made the big split, had a little look around, had to think about it. Now himself and Daniel Oss have made a little bit of a gap on the rest of the main group. We're going to call this the leading group. There is a leading group of 6 riders up front. They are the breakaway group. We're not thinking too much about them because these are the real favourites, the real superstars of this race. John Degenkolb in red is in good position. Philippe Gilbert in the Belgian national champions colours in centre of shot. He has Tom Bonin for company, the world champion Peter Sagan. This really is the cream, isn't it? And there's some top races. Here comes another attack. Quick Step really want to kick this one off. We saw this in Dwars-Vlaanderen. Philippe Gilbert, much further out than so many of the other teams expected, really put the hammer down, split the group to bits, and now he wants to do it again.
Yeah, they're riding aggressively like they did the other day, and it worked. And just as the two front groups came together, Philippe Gilbert wants to stay in front. They know how important it is to have riders in front, and now he's taken with them to another rider. So yeah, it's an aggressive day of racing yet again for the Quick Step team. But as we pan further back, some more recruitments are coming forward now, and it looks as if these groups will come together to have maybe 60-70 riders at the front of the race.
Splits all over the road, and Daniel Oss and I know it's is it Van Avermaet has decided that they are not satisfied with the composition of this group. Laura Hangstra have strong riders. Posselberger super ride from him in Dwars-Vlaanderen. Great to have the quality of his legs. involved again today for Peter Sagan. Much has been made of the lack of strength and depth of the Bora Hansgrohe squad, but actually they've been pretty strong in supporting him. Sagan has really stepped up this year.
Well, this is a really strong quartet with Van Avermaet there and Philip Gilbert. I think the AG2R rider is Oliver Nason as well. So they've got some strength in that group, but I don't think it'll come too much because these groups are coming together. But it just shows you on one climb, the race towards that climb, the 10 bird, 650 meters. This is the damage it's done.
Well, the next big assault for the riders, climb 8, the Boynenberg, 2,180 meters. 2.1 kilometers.
They're just about to pick up the 3 riders that were just in front. Dries de Bont of Verandas Williams, Tom van Asbroek of Cannondale, and Michael Delage of Française de Joux.
Well, they hung out there a long time, didn't make the junction with the front riders, but have stayed clear of the peloton for a long time. Do they have the strength to get involved in this, to at least stay with this front group? That's what they were hoping for. That was the reason for their assault, not just, I think, to get a little bit of TV time, but perhaps put themselves in the position of maximum opportunity. And when they're picked up by the real heroes later on, well, it's been less fraud on the climbs. Of course, the trade is, as Brian has pointed out, that you're out front for longer. Will they be able to sit in the wheels? We'll get the question very shortly answered. And well, where are the riders coming from behind? This is the remains of the breakaway group. Indeed, it's a compact group of 6 riders, it would appear, with Team Lotto NL Jumbo's Gees van Heck from Belgium arriving on the Boynenberg. 5.8% average, steeper slopes than that. The Belgian rider riding a steady tempo. Their advantage now down to just 1 1/3 minutes. It's a big peloton behind, and not too far ahead of them are that elite group. So have they shot their bolt? Have they gone too hard too early?
I tell you what, there's another group trying to come across, and this looks as if this could be, if it's the right combination, this could be, you know, the race is definitely on, and Philip Gilbert knows this. Okay, they've got a few passengers. Postelberger is the rider that's with them, but it does look as if it depends on the combination of the group just behind, if they can get together. Nason pushing hard in front, and just looking behind, UAE is there, Française de Joux, Sky, Orica Scots, Lotto NL Jumbo, and also Cannondale got another rider in there. So not too many of the quick step jerseys towards the front, and maybe they've been caught out in this, and maybe the fact that they've only got Gilbert there, they might want to maybe hold Gilbert back a little bit, because obviously he's on some really good form coming into the last couple of weeks, but on his own he's going to really struggle because he's up against some strong riders round about him.
Well, now Yves Lampert in the Quick Step Floors squad this afternoon. He's basking in a little bit of reflected glory after his glorious win in Dwarsdorf-Vlaanderen on Wednesday. But the man who finished second and really animated that race, Philippe Gilbert, is enjoying the Cobble Classics this year, isn't he? Balmy spring sunshine for the riders, and Greg Van Avermaet doesn't want to let anyone get back involved. Looks like Sepp van Mark is trying to get back up there, and he's towing a couple of riders with him, but it's a hectic time. This is, I think, a key time in this race, because they're absolute stars up front. For all that, it looks like the bunch could come back together again, but it will have been a really tough chase. Interesting, Peter Sagan distanced with that big effort from Tom Boonen and from Daniel Oss and others.
Yeah, I don't think he's too worried at the moment. He's got Postelberger in front, but this is a strong group now. You can just see Postelberger with his mouth hanging open. Delage of Française de Joux, he's been in front, but you know, the 3 riders that are in front now with Nason, Van Avermaet and Philip Gilbert really pushing the race on at the moment. On the back foot, it did look as if the team of Quick Step were towards the front of the peloton. Just as we look, I'm trying to look behind. Sagan knows that this is this is a difficult part of the race now, and I think he would want to try and shut this down, because there's some strong riders going in front now, just as the junction is made from Tom van Asbroek, who was in front, dropped back, saw Van Mark, and then moved towards the front there. So it was perfect tactical awareness from Tom van Asbroek of Cannondale. But just propped on the back there, it does look as if Luke Durbridge has made it there for Orica Scott.
Yeah, super teamwork there from Tom van Asbroek. He's been out front for a long time. Realised that his team leader was coming up, just dropped back, throttled back, made a big effort. He'll pay for that, but it has meant that Van Mark hasn't had to make the big effort. Van Avermaet in the position he wants to be. Third, his best finish in E3. He'd like to improve upon that. Proven winner and on absolutely flying form. Well, the riders are lined out in single file and scrapping to get every position that they possibly can, because it's absolutely flat chat and still 64 kilometres to go in E3 Harelbeke. There's a group of 6 up front, but we're not paying them too much mind, because the chasing group has a narrow advantage on the peloton. Here comes from group 3. Peter Sagan has decided that this is just a little bit dangerous, a little bit too long as well, that those riders have been out front, and he's a little bit frantic. Matteo Trentin has spotted the danger wherever Peter Sagan goes. It seems Matteo Trentin goes. We've already seen that in the Cobble Classics this year, and Trentin's having a little look behind. He knows that he's got 2 teammates in that group of leaders just dangling off the front of the peloton, and he's not about to give Peter Sagan any assistance in getting into position. At the back of the bunch, well, it's agonising stuff, isn't it? Tom Scully here for Cannondale Drapac. Well, he may well have heard that Sepp van Mark and Tom van Asbroek are in that group of favourites up front at the moment. Cannondale would like to would they want to get more riders in there, or would they be happy with the fact that they've got a gap and they've got Sepp van Mark, who's back at Cannondale, back at the Slipstream squad after an extended stay away, and seems to be enjoying it so far. David Per at the back of the breakaway group. Less than a minute now. They're going to be mopped up soon at the rate of progress, and that's why the motorcycles are heading ahead of this leading group. Alexis Goujar on the front for France, for the French AG Tour squad, and indeed for his own interests as well. It's a super ride so far for those riders. Just to get in the break today was a hell of a scrap. Took hours, literally hours, for it to form. Attack after attack after attack. Groups getting upwards of a minute at one stage, but not anything that will manage to sustain, not like this group of 6 out front. Then the chasing group of what, 5 or 6 riders finds itself 47 seconds down. Their advantage can't be much more than 10 seconds, maybe 15 at the most. Lucas Posselberger turning into a bit of a star, isn't he? His team leader is in the group behind, but Posselberger's not holding anything back. Tom van Asbroek, Michal Delage are in there. Sasha Modolo has managed to make it in. That's significant. He's got a great sprint, clearly enjoying his trip over the Hellingen as well. Now the next section of cobbles for the riders, as Kees van Hoek, he wants to lead them onto the Eichenberg. Led the last climb as well, seems to be working his way into this one with strength and with plenty of commitment as well. David Per is sitting, stalking him on the wheel in the colours of Bahrain Merida. 22-year-old Slovenian rider in his first season in the World Tour, and already stepping up. Well, as an Adria Mobile rider, won't have experienced these races so far, so clearly he's a man for the future. At 22 years of age, he's got plenty of years to accumulate the knowledge, and local knowledge is so key. They go down every laneway they can find, and these riders spend years, literally years, living in the area and training on these roads to try and understand them. Looks like Van Asbroek's popped a gasket. No surprise, he was up front for a long time, did a solid job to get Van Mark into position. So Cannondale Drapac down to 1 rider in the group. Also lost Delage from the early breakaway, who was thereabouts. So now it is the cream rising to the top once more. And these are the riders that managed to get clear of the peloton. They're still clear of the peloton, but so little in it. Will we see an attack from the peloton, or are they just going to try and sustain the chase, use teammates to do the job?
We've already seen Peter Sagan try to do something. He realised this is the Sasha Modulo getting dropped, and we saw him getting dropped the other day in Dwyer Flandern when the pressure was put on. We've got 2 cobble climbs quick in succession now, but Delage, Van Aspruck, their day has been done, but it does look as if the world champion realised that okay, the teammate in front of him, but he knew that that was a key moment to the race. And you know, when you think that Gilbert is in, Nason, Van Avermaet, Posterberger, Van Mark, Durbridge, I think Trek Segafredo had numbers in the front, and I think they'll be the team on the back foot. I don't think Quick Step will be overly happy, but then again, Philippe Gilbert is on magnificent form at the moment. Van Avermaet at the front pushing hard. It does look a lot better since Milan San Remo. He's complaining of having a little bit of a cold, but it looks as if he's back on form today. This is a formidable front group. We've already seen Durbridge, what he can do in Dwyer Flandern, and Gilbert as well. Nason, strong rider. Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion. Posterberger, he'll be loving being part of this, but Sagan missed out. He tried to do something to go across. He wasn't able to, but I think there's a lot of teams now thinking that some of the strong riders have disappeared down the road and they're going to have to chase them back.
Nason comes to the front for AG Tour La Mondiale after a huge turn from Greg Van Avermaet. Looks like a silver bike these days for the Olympic champion. It's been all gold bling for him since that famous day in Rio. Now the chasers of the breakaway group have almost made the junction, and they've put a lot of space and a lot of time into that peloton on that climb. That tarmac strip up the left-hand side proving advantageous for the single file small group. Noticeable, and I think I picked out Alexander Kristoff, who was just cruising his way towards the front. Will it turn out to be him? Perhaps not, but Katusha put a man in, but cruising up the cobbles to do it. So there's the peloton behind. So the time gap you're getting, 8 seconds, that's from the breakaway group of 6, almost about to be joined by the, we're going to call it the group of favourites, very shortly to become Group 1 on the road. This is the peloton behind. I'd like to know what that gap is. Must be at least 15-20 seconds now. Peter Sagan has gone back a little bit further back into the group. Is he perhaps keeping his powder dry for Sunday? I don't think so. So many of the teams will tell you there's no question but that they'll take a win when it's on offer, and they will fight tooth and nail for every one of them. This is a World Tour race, as indeed was Wednesday's Dwyer Vlaanderen for the first time, and as indeed is, of course, Gent-Wevelgem on Sunday. That's here on Eurosport. As the peloton behind, they've been joined by some more riders since the Eichenberg. Well, maybe not. Yeah, that would have seemed a little bit unlikely. There are riders trying to make their way back in, but that's a significantly slimmed down group, isn't it? And that's much smaller. Sasha Modulo has been distanced, and teammate of the UAE Abu Dhabi rider on the front of the main group. As we see this group of favourites, with Nason just on the back here of this group of 6. Durbridge makes a little bit of a mistake there, has to make an effort just to get back into the wheel. No harm, no foul on that occasion. Inside 60 kilometres to go in E3, Harelbeke. It's been superbly entertaining so far. It's only going to get back better from here. We'll be back after these. Well, there you have it, just under 60 kilometres remaining in E3 at Harelbeke, and this is the leading group. They've mopped up the early break of the day, so 6 becomes 12, but it's 6 strong men, and those strong men include Sepp van Mark in the green of Cannondale Drapac, who's on the front, making way for Philippe Gilbert. And look at their advantage now, up to 47 seconds on the main peloton behind. Brian, I have to say, that is pretty significant, isn't it? When you've got legs of the likes of John Degenkolb, Peter Sagan, and so many more team leaders behind. This is a significant moment for this race, with a group of, 12 riders up front, 46 seconds to the good. Peloton need to get their skates on.
Yeah, they do. And Sutherland comes to the front, the German rider riding for the Spanish Movistar team. Tony Martin there in the red with the K on, and Matteo Trentin just sitting at the back of this quartet. No real chase, 45 seconds. You can see the team of Bora Hangro at the front of the peloton. I just noticed it in the breakaway there that Postelberger was not contributing at all. But when you consider it, the world champion's on some good form. They've put his teammates on the front, well, 2 teammates to try and help bring this back. I don't think that's going to be enough. The teams that have missed out in this, Lotto Soudal, okay, Tate's been out, had a puncture, was caught out, but then they've got Team Sky. Team Sky are not in the front. They should be trying to do something as well. Katusha obviously realised that with Tony Martin there, but Tech Segafredo, they were looking as if they were in good shape, but have missed out. So we're starting to see some casualties at the back from the original breakaway. One of the riders, Christophe Masson from Varen Classic, has been dropped to the back here. So it's difficult times, but tell you what, this is a good work here from Gouchard of AG2R, riding for Nason. He's been in the break for the last I think about 80 kilometres or somewhat, because it was late in going away, but he still got the energy to help his team.
Yeah, solid effort too from the motorbike that is Tony Martin for Team Katusha. The move across to Katusha Alpecin, will it pay dividends in terms of classic success? He's just distancing that rider from the Varen Classic Equality Protect. They've lost their man out of the break, and look at Peter Sagan, a little bit of frustration there because he needs to go around and take him with him.
He just looked round there and realised that it was Tony Martin in front and thought, this could be the key to me going ahead. So Tony Martin pushing hard in the front. The world champion is there. Nicky Terpstra is right up there towards the front as well. Sutherland also. Trentin starting to be distanced a little bit, but they have to get a small enough group, but I don't think many people want to ride with the world champion. This gap's still hovering about 44 seconds. This is the top of the Stationsberg climb. But afterwards we start going towards the Kappelberg, and then we've got the Patersberg and the Old Quaremont.
So Peter Sagan goes to the front of the chasing group. They have managed to separate themselves from the peloton. Up front, well, you've got Greg van Avermaet pushing hard as well, he might. And the AG2R Le Mondial squad have plenty of reason to push on, because they've got Oliver Nassen and his teammate Alexis Gouchard from the early break, so they will push on. But behind, Tony Martin, Peter Sagan, Jascha Sutherland, super performance from him, best rider from the Movistar squad. 48th place finish in Dwarsdorf Vlaanderen, not exactly a top day for them, but Sutherland showing some good form there. He's carried it into the Friday race, that is E3 Harelbeke, named after a road. And they were so proud of their motorway that connected Kortrijk with Antwerp back in the 1950s, that they decided to create a race to commemorate it. And it's now no longer called E3, it's the E17, but they haven't been minded to change the name in case presumably anyone would confuse it with a boy band or part of East London.
But just looking at this now, you can see John Degenkolb, but sitting about 12th, 15th position in this group, and Katusha with Christophe and Tony Martin pushing hard at the front. The world champion is there, but just looking behind with Trentin and Terpstra. The gap's starting to appear. There's a lot of people really starting to feel the hurt of Tony Martin in this chase group, and it has to be the right combination for them to combine with each other, but Tony Martin is putting the hurt in a lot of people here.
Well, he's blowing the peloton apart, absolutely hammering them, and that little peek out from behind his shoulder by Peter Sagan and then looking back in again. He's not going to contribute if it's not absolutely necessary, because that kind of sustained impetus, sustained power from Tony Martin still has what it takes to take a bottle, albeit briefly, and has a little look behind to survey the damage. Well, there are cracks, but will he throttles back now. Sagan goes to the front, but will he keep the hammer down? And more particularly, will this 43-second gap come down? That's Nassen from the early break.
This is the time now. We're onto the main roads and everybody's looking around. Tom Bunn is still there for Quick Step, the world champion there. We're going to get some attacks on the main road, but more for fear than anything else. It's John Degenkolb. He realises that Trek Segafredo have not got the numbers now at the front of this race. Steve Barkham's across to him, Sylvain Delia as well from BMC. This gap to the leaders, I think, is going to extend because we're on the main road. Everybody will have to get organised. If you've missed out in the front group, you have to get organised and get an organised chase going, because all this attacking, as we just see another 3 seconds added on to 47 seconds, they're riding through and off. The strong riders are all contributing in the front group, but this gap is going to creep up. Daniel Oss coming towards the front as well for BMC, but they're just making efforts, looking behind. These are the teams that have got riders in front, and it's going to be very difficult to bring them back, as we see Stijn Vandenberg for AG2R again up towards the front, but they've got Nason there, and they'll be happy with that.
Nason and Goujar, of course, from the early break. They might be betting on him, but Nason is one of their protected riders. Stijn Vandenberg has moved back to AG Tour Le Mondial after a long break, long time with Quick Step, and a long time as one of the workers, as a domestique, working for the team leaders. He has an opportunity now to lead the team, and this must be a little bit of a sense of frustration for him, because he can see the race win disappearing up the road. Daniel Oss just going to the front of that group there for BMC. Well, he's got Greg van Avermaet in the brakes, so there's not going to be too much movement from him. I think at this stage I sense that Peter Sagan is probably betting on Posselberger, his teammate up front, not about to make any moves himself.
Fabio Fellini coming towards the front for Trek Segafredo. Dilly is there for BMC, and they're just bringing back Per from Bahrain, who was in the leading group. Sylvain Chavanel, Trentin also Quick Step towards the front. So yeah, I think they came onto the main roads. There's another group coming up from behind. This is the time to get organised, because if you don't get organised now and use your team, your domestics, then this gap is going to keep on creeping up.
There's at least 3 teams with 3 riders from teams that aren't represented in the break that are in this little counter-attack. Peter Sagan is not there. Quick Step haven't, to the best of my knowledge, put a rider into that little counter, but it's only just a narrow advantage that they've established over the peloton, so it hasn't quite established itself as a counter-attack yet.
But I'll give you an indication, Declan, right? Gilbert, Nason, Van Avermaet, Van Mark, Durbridge, that's 5 really strong riders that are in this front group. They've got some passengers, okay, they've been in the breakaway already, tired legs, they're sitting towards the back, but that's 5 strong riders already. In order to come across that group, it's going to have to be 5 just to hold the gap, 5 strong riders from the group behind. So if a group's going to come across to this front group, it's going to have to be 8 or 10 riders, strong riders, all contributing to try and come to the front of this race. So the gap still holding, it's still doable, it's 50 seconds, but I think it's time for, if you've got teammates behind, call them to the forwards, use them up now, because this gap is going to keep on creeping up if there's no concerted chase behind.
Yeah, creeping up is the phrase. At the moment, it's just 1 second every 500 meters or so is being added to the total. It's all grist to the mill, isn't it? It's slowly but surely they're establishing what could well be a winning advantage. Let's not commit to that. There's still 51.6 kilometers left in this race, but look at the way riders are coming back into the peloton. Not good signals for the chase. The peloton just got that little bit larger. It includes many of the favourites in E3 Harelbeke for 2017, including the likes of Tony Martin of Katusha Alpecin, who finds himself a little bit frustrated by the situation. Is he looking after himself, or perhaps thinking of Alexander Kristoff? Haven't seen too much of the great Norwegian so far in today's action, and Daniel Oss sitting second wheel here. He's not going to do anything about this one. He doesn't want to close it down, because he has got the great Greg van Avermaet up in the breakaway group. Almost 1 minute to the good, and that's a group of what, about 10 riders, at least 5 or 6 of whom have genuine claims for victory this afternoon. They've picked up a few riders from the early breakaway, those riders enjoying the moment in the sun, such as it is, both figuratively and very much literally, because the weather's absolutely stunning this afternoon in Flanders, as Daniel Oss just rolls to the front but makes no real contribution to the pace. And now we're up to almost a minute.
That's in the breakaway, because there was no team cars behind, because it wasn't a minute yet. So unfortunately for the Lotto NL Jumbo rider Jes van Ook, the Belgian, who was on some good form, 26th in Dwardorf Vlaanderen just the other day. So unfortunately for Lotto NL Jumbo, they could be without a representative in the front of the race.
Just over 30 miles remaining. Key moment here. If the peloton are going to get back into contention, they're going to have to start making inroads into that gap, and it's got to start happening pretty soon. Long way to go, you might say. But
there's enough time, there's enough distance to be able to do that, but you need to get organised in the group behind. The teams that are on front are the teams that are represented. You look at BMC, they've got AVERMAET there. You look at AG2R. All the teams are just covering riders that are trying to go on the attack. This is, in fact, looks like the rider is Verandas Williams rider Stein de Wilder, who is in his 16th. May I repeat it? 16th in a row. He's ridden this race. E3 Harelbeke.
Yeah, the old dog for the hard road very much controls that record. He's got one. We saw Tornado Tom earlier on. No rider has won 6 significant one-day classics of the current peloton.
So look at them
Eddie
all.
Merckx has done it.
Look at them all. Like Tony Martin, he knows he's an experienced rider. He knows this is the key moments, and he's trying to force another group to come away. But when you've got the teammates of the riders in front just policing all the time, unless Katusha, Trek Segafredo, Sky, there's a few other teams without representation in the front of this race. Unless they come to the front soon, this race is going to be over, and the winner is going to come from the riders in front, which tells me that I think there's a lot of tired legs in the peloton already. And if the riders are just kind of sitting, following the wheels, they need to come to the front to shut this gap down as it stays round about to 1 minute, just purely because of a tempo being set by the 16-time rider of this race, Stein de Wilder. But Fabio Follini comes to the front. He's not going to come across on his own, Declan.
Well, Follini has a sense of frustration there. Frustration too, I think, for Stein de Wilder. He looks over his shoulder and sees a phalanx of teams that are represented in the breakaway group and have no interest in assisting him in his chase. Two-time Tour of Flanders winner, now 37 years of age, and he now sees Fabio Follini try the lone wolf attempt, but that's hardly going to work, is it? And
he needs to look behind now, because it looks
Niels
as if
Pollitt,
Katusha have now put some riders. Bahrain Merida have now put a rider up because, you know, looking at the riders, the teams that have missed out, Lotto Soudal, you've got Team Sky, you've got Astana still have one rider, Lawrence de Vries up there, but he's been in the breakaway. You've got Bahrain Merida, you've got Français de Jeu, you've got Movistar, you've got Team Dimension Data. We've not really mentioned them at all today. Katusha we've already mentioned. Lotto NL Jumbo have got a rider represented in the front, and UAE. So there are a lot of strong teams without representation in the front. They have to really try to get organised, because the next climbs are going to come up. You've got the Kappelberg coming up, which is a tarmac climb very soon, and then you've got the Paterberg and the Old Quaremont.
Well, there's your breakaway group, 10 in total. Lucas Posselberger of Bora Hansgrohe is in good shape, isn't he? The Austrian rider, top form in Dwars-Vlaanderen a couple of days ago. He's carried that into E3 Harelbeke, and Fabio Follini's period as the lone chaser looks like it could well be coming to an end. I suspect he's realised,
Look behind and ride with them.
Yeah, he's realised that Katusha put riders on the front. They are not represented in that breakaway up front, so this is a nervous moment for them, and they've managed to gather the troops. Will other teams be found wanting, or will they be able to make a contribution? Lotto Soudal we haven't seen too much of them today. Of course, Tony Galopin, you mentioned.
Tony Galopin crashed out.
Yeah, he's crashed and he's gone to hospital.
Punctured at the wrong time. So, and I'm just looking through this group here. I can't see that there's one rider towards the back, one rider for Lotto Soudal in this front group. Niels Pollitt's having to ride. Tony Martin's there. You see Christoph, but Follini should be popping in and you know, trying to help and trying to ride with these riders.
Yeah, Lars Baum for the Lotto NL Jumbo squad, sitting at the back of the group, not exactly an optimum position, and that's not a position where he'll gain much, albeit it isn't exactly a big group, is it? Is he at the back of the peloton, because big split in there. And this chase group, Well, the last section not suiting out. That
Yeah,
could
Lars
well be the
Bohm.
reason. That explains it.
Yeah.
Lars Bohm finds himself with a rear wheel puncture. Gets service pretty quick. Is that team worker or just someone? Yeah, I think it is. Judging by the wheel that's gone on.
Yeah, we forget about this. All these people at the side of the road, all the staff members, pair of wheels, bottles, and they're zigzagging their way around this route to make sure they're in the perfect place, because there's absolutely no chance of getting to your car today in these sort of conditions.
Yes, the teams accumulate assistance, don't they? There's a real call to arms for the classics. Get as many people as they can on board and put
Give
them
them
at
a t-shirt,
strategic
give them a
positions.
bottle and a pair of wheels and saying, be at these points today.
You're working for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. People would lay down their life for the opportunity to do that. Well, Philippe Gilbert, he's pulling faces with about, 80 kilometers to go when this thing really kicked off. Settled down somewhat. But don't for 1 minute think that it's easy, because they're still managing to extend their advantage. Just over 45k left. Is this the group that will contest the win, or will the peloton get back in? Find out after these. Well, that peloton is still split. Inside 45 kilometers to go on E3 Harelbeke, and I can tell you that the Katusha squad are not minded to let too many of those riders back in. Indeed, it seems to be an elimination race from the back, but these riders are not currently contesting the win because they find themselves over a minute in arrears, just under a minute and a quarter. So the leading group up front, they've stemmed the tide somewhat because they're not extending their advantage, and Katusha are starting to just gain a second here and a second there. It's a critical moment though, and they've a long way to go to get back into contention. It's been a tough day out so far for Lotto Soudal. They've lost, Tej Benoot had mechanical problems, and unfortunately Tony Galopin has headed to hospital, and Nicholas Maas as well finds himself wanting. Or is that a mechanical problem? Fellini, well, he's still dangling off the front of the bunch. Brian, would you care to comment on the tactics here? I mean, how would you analyse that?
I tell you what, when he came around the corner, he was actually at the front of the group. He's shaking his head. He's riding too hard. He should be riding with Katusha. Niels Pollitt is still a young rider, and but a strong rider, and they should be riding together, Trek Segafredo and Katusha, because this gap is still manageable, and I think they have to do it. The top of the Paterberg is coming with 41 to go, so they've not got long towards this Paterberg, and I think it's going to even thin down in the chase, so they should be helping each other at the moment and letting the leaders try to do something, because if there's a strong group in the peloton behind comes from the Paterberg and then onto the Old Quaremont, a minute or just over a minute, somebody like Sagan and maybe Tony Martin and John Degenkolb, Christoph, if they can form in a group of maybe 6, 8, 10 riders, then there's an opportunity. But when you see in the front group Sepp van Maert pushing out and pushing on, these are the strongest riders at the front. Unfortunately, we've lost a few riders because of crashes and punctures, but yeah, you see Philippe Gilbert, even in the front group, they're trying to get a good position for the Paterberg.
A little bit of a scrap here, and it's because, according to the road group, we've got the road book, we've got a dangerous moment with 42.8 kilometers to go, which is about now. A little bit of a descent and into a series of twists, and then they make their way up the Paterberg. So it's about getting position, and it's about, and problems behind in the bunch. Peter Sagan is one rider down. Looks like it's happened pretty close to the front because, rider on the deck, Oscar Gatto for the Astana squad, and I think I picked out Julian Vermaat as well from the Quick-Step squad. So a little bit of agony for so many of the riders. Jack Barr. No, indeed, I think it's Alex Kirsch.
Fall right in the middle. AG2R was just pushed everybody out to the left-hand side, and unfortunately some riders were caught up in that, including the world champion, Peter Sagan.
Well, no sign of that AG2R Le Mondial rider, and Bora Hansgrohe had to wait a little while for Christoph Fingston to get back into position, and Philippe Gilbert gets himself into prime position. The stand, of course, of Laurens de Vries, and remember he was in the early breaks. This is impressive stuff as he goes to the front, sets the tempo. I don't think he wants anyone to attack, but Philippe Gilbert knows that that's just not quite enough power that he's generating. De Vries finds himself struggling to hang on. Van Mark has to go around him so much, so too does pretty much everyone else. So a little bit of shadow, or he was just trying to hoodwink everyone there, wasn't he? De Vries wanted to set the tempo on the climb, and hopefully it was a tempo that he could manage and no one else would try and come around him. That plan didn't work. Philippe Gilbert is putting him under pressure. He's putting Greg Van Avermaet under pressure as well. Goujar is in good position.
Well, he did this a couple of days ago, Gilbert, the Belgian champion, and this is where he pushed out. The group was coming close from behind, and he's taking with him Greg Van Avermaet, Naesen, Van Mark, Postelberger doing a good ride, just hanging in there. De Vries and Durbridge just about 2 or 3 meters off, but it's distanced the other riders that were in the original breakaway.
Yeah, Gies van Heck has gone. Great effort from him. Taco van der Hoorn has also been distanced, and Durbridge finds himself in a bit of a chasing situation. De Vries' little plan worked in as much as he managed to get over that climb, so he's still part of the lead gang up front.
It's an intelligent move, getting to the front, but this is what we've seen in Dwado of Vlaanderen, Trentin and Stibar coming to the fore, but this is Terpstra and Stibar coming to it. This is Trentin. Luc Rowe is just behind. Then you've got Daniel Oss. This is hurting everybody at the moment. You know, the riders are being distanced off the back. I can't see anybody coming back to the group in front now.
Well, Trentin's on the front. Presumably he feels secure and safe in riding, given that he's probably not absolutely putting the hammer down.
He's not putting the hammer down. He's just riding. The easiest place to ride is there. We've already seen a few crashes, so he's just keeping himself out of trouble. It's all going to come down to Philippe Gilbert for Quick Step today. He finished second. He seemed very strong in Dwado of Vlaanderen, but he finished second there. But Tony Martin tried to dodge bottles. But this is a long time that Sagan has had to wait. But
sure,
in this race last year,
because he picked up a wheel from Fingston. Well, it must be over a minute ago more. So have they swapped wheels or what's gone on? But certainly it means Peter Sagan, if these are live pictures, and I believe they are at this point, Peter Sagan is out of contention. And that wheel change, bike change, well, certainly a wheel change, not a bike change, because he's still got number 1 on the back. He's not satisfied with that, and I suspect that this is just going to be a vehicle that will get him to a team car somewhere around the road. He might well ride to the conclusion, just 40k go. He might fancy the miles, but it's going to be very difficult for Peter Sagan to get back into contention. Just wants to straighten those brake levers, get himself a working and functioning bike. Not to be for Peter Sagan, but he's got a teammate up front and going well. Inside 40 kilometers to go, 25 miles in old money. This is the lead group. It is the Stars who kicked it off. Well, it must be fully 40 kilometers ago. And one of the leading animators from the get-go was the man on the front, Philippe Gilbert. Pipped to the post on Wednesday. His teammate getting the victory on that occasion. But Yves Lampaert is not involved in this race. And now it is up to Philippe Gilbert to wear the colours of Quick Step, and indeed the colours of the Belgian national champion, with pride, and try and represent their interests. Sepp van Mark was so often the bridesmaid. Could he come up with a big win when he really would like it? Luc Durbridge, 4th on Wednesday, had to make a bit of a scrap to get back into contention. The standard knowledge is that he will really suit, goes well in Paris-Roubaix, really suits the flat road. Of course, he's a track man, he's a pursuer, he's a time trial rider, and you know, the thinking is that he doesn't get over these hills, but seems to be acquiring some facility for them. Meanwhile, now we've got a counter-attacking group, including Matteo Trentin. Well, he's hardly going to keep riding. Has a little look over his shoulder. He's looking for assistance. I think it looks as if he is riding.
Yeah, but look who's come with Matteo Trentin. An absolute fabulous effort after his puncture earlier on today. Tish Benut is a rider that we were saying is a danger in this race. He punctured it probably the wrong time. He's fought himself back. He's got very little teammates round about. I think he was the only rider in this front group. But we're coming on to the Old Quaremont soon, and I think Gilbert has to feel very confident. He looks good. And but I think Gilbert has to soften this group up. It looks as if he's on very good form. They're doing bit and bits. Gilbert at the back, but I think Gilbert will want to try and soften this up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to do something in the old Quartermount here.
Surprised to see Trenton riding?
I think they want to keep it, don't want to let the gap out too far, because there's 7 riders down the road and they've got 1 and 7. They've got some numbers, some strong riders behind, so if there's any faltering in front, crash, puncture, they want to be able to be within you know, a good distance of doing something. And I think there might be a reaction from the front of the peloton behind, including some of the quick step riders. You noticed the other day in Dwaador-Vlaanderen in the Patersburg with Stebar and Terpstra. So we might see a similar situation today of some of the quick step riders trying to come forward.
Well, there's no real impetus in that group, is there? But the group coming up behind is not exactly the complete peloton. Still, it's a significant size, but look at the way that the gap is being maintained, managed, sitting at about 1 minute and 11 seconds. We haven't seen too much of that lately, too much extension or indeed contraction. So it's just sat there, and it needs to be coming down because the kilometers are coming down. Yeah,
Naesen looks super strong here. Greg Van Avermaet and Gilbert. Unfortunately, Van Avermaet, De Vries, Van Mark and De Vries have now been distanced. So it just goes to show you that the other day there that Van Mark was he said he was in a bad day, and it looks as if he's not kind of recovered from that. Durbridge, excellent ride to 4th, and Dwaador-Vlaanderen. Posselberg has done a great ride today, but it looks as if the 3 strong riders of this race today are Naesen, Van Avermaet and Gilbert.
Nasen's on flying form, isn't he? 6th in Dwarstor-Vlaanderen a couple of days ago, 8th in Kern-Brussels-Kern, 7th in Alpnloop Het Nussblad, and that all translates into top classics form. Sooner or later, it'll all come back to you. Feline is doing a great job for John Degenkolb, getting him into position, but they've got a lot of big work to do to get across this gap. Now Greg Van Avermaet and Philippe Gilbert. This is the select group of 3 who've gone on from the rest, and there really isn't the strength there. The signals weren't good on the last hill from Luc Durbridge, and he's not able to get back in there.
Good day for the Belgians. The Belgian champion in front, all 3 riders. And I think the crowds will be going nuts because there's a car behind. Can't see anybody coming back from this, and definitely the 3 strongest riders in the race today are in front.
Well, this race, not surprisingly, has been won more times by Belgium than any other nation. 37 times out of the 60 editions held so far. Well, this is the 60th edition, so 37 times out of 59. Interestingly enough, Belgium haven't won it in 5 years since Tom Bonen's 5th success in 2012, so it's been a little while. It looks like they have a pretty strong chance of taking the victory today. Will it be Van Avermaet on the front? The Olympic champion, man in flying form. Philippe Gilbert would very much like to win a Flemish Classic. So too with John Degenkolb.
Yeah, they're just coming over the plateau now, where these 3 riders are very close to the top of the climb now. They come out onto the main road, they turn left here. Still some climbs to come though, just 2 climbs, both of them on tarmac, so no cobbles.
This is a tough cobble section, no doubt about it, and they will feel great relief as the tarmac smooths under their wheels. And they've done some damage because the gap goes up to 1 minute and 19 seconds across that cobbled sector, and before the bunch get into it, that is impressive work. So it's going in the right direction for the 3 up front. There'll be cooperation between them, but there's still a long way to go to the line. Oliver Naesen of the 3, the one with the most animation, or the most emotion being displayed on his face, that emotion being pain, suffering. Are they emotions? Semi-loathing of what's going on around him, but he's still able to get the watts out. And Naesen, as I said, has come up with a string of top results lately, so it's looking good. This is a select group. AG Tour Le Mondial would dearly love to come up with big classic success. They haven't scored too many over the years. No French winner of this race. Naesen representing, as a Belgian, representing French interests at AG Tour Le Mondial. Feline is doing a great job for Degenkolb. And it will be interesting to find out what's happening with the riders who've been distanced by the trio up front. Their erstwhile breakaway companions. Will they be picked up? Well, there you go. You're seeing 13 seconds as Christophe Masson is picked up. Sorry, Guy van Heck from Lotto NL Jumbo is picked up from the early break. He was with the leaders for quite a way. It's been a solid job for him. Durbridge riding solo now. What chance has he got of closing that 13-second gap? So now just over 35 kilometers remaining. 1 minute and 21 seconds for the three leaders to the group of chasers behind, led by Trek Segafredo. In between are several members of the lead group, or former members of the lead group, including their nearest pursuer, and that is a pursuer, Luke Durbridge of Australia. And Orica Scott finds himself, what, 13, 15 seconds down. He's an absolutely fabulous ruler, really can generate the watts. Sustained performance from him, but that's what it's going to take. And he's up against three riders that are working in combination. Now John Degenkolb, who of course took that wonderful Paris-Roubaix and Milan-San Remo double a couple of seasons ago. Difficult season last year, came back at the back end of the year after that horrific pre-season training accident. And came back to decent form, scored some wins, now finds himself in strong position in E3, but still, well, fighting for the minor positions unless something significant happens very quickly, because these three riders up front, still total cooperation between them, and that's the way it's going to be for the next while.
It very much looks like that. One rider just trying to come back, and that's Durbridge, fourth the other day, and if he makes it across, could be another fourth for him, but it's going to be very difficult. The three Belgians in front will not want anybody else to come across, and the only thing that Greg van Avermaet has got up his sleeve is he never rode the Eduardo or Vlaanderen, so he might be somewhat fresher, but then saying that, Gilbert and Nathan have recovered well and on good form. I wouldn't like to say out of three who's going to possibly win, because all three can finish well. It's going to get definitely tactical towards the end, because I can't see a sprint between them. They still have to cooperate because it's only 1 minute and 14 seconds, so it's if they want to fill the podium, then they have to ride with each other, because there's still options from the group behind. Group 4, which is, you know, John Degenkolb group, is only 1 minute and 12 behind.
Three up front are working well on this tarmac stretch. Not quite a motorway. They don't go anywhere near the E3 or the E17 as it's called now. Well, I say they don't go anywhere near it. Actually, the finish is quite close to that road now that's called the E17.
So what are you trying to say?
I don't know. Basically, they don't go on a motorway, on a race named after a motorway. Durbridge chasing hard, but oh, this is going to be a tough one. I would like to see a time gap, see if he's making any inroads. Chasers behind. Other riders, Posselberger, it's been a solid job from him, but disappointing day so far for Bora Hansgrohe, because Peter Sagan not really in contention, found himself in a chasing group, decided to bet on Posselberger, and then of course came to grief. Mechanical issues may have indeed have gone down in that crash. AG Tour Le Mondial rider taking several riders down, like Skittles, and Peter Sagan getting back into the fray, but at a huge delay, and he's no longer in contention. So this chasing group looks like the steam's gone out of it.
Yeah, three from Quick-Step, Bonin, Trentin and Terpstra there. John Degenkolb and Fellini there for Trek Segafredo. Tej Spinut, number 21. Good ride today, but punctured at the wrong time.
No cooperation, so the gap will surely rise between these riders and the ones further ahead. And this is a bit of a ski slope, isn't it? Finally a little bit of impetus that'll drag them up. John Degenkolb not satisfied with that one. And it would be nice to find out if Luke Durbridge is making any inroads. Herbst has a little look around, finds that John Degenkolb is dragging their back. 13 riders in this group, they reckon. Felline's been doing solid work for this man. Just coming to the front there in the red, John Degenkolb with the moustache.
The thing is, Gilbert must be feeling super good today. He's got some good quality riders round about him in Nason and Greg Van Avermaet, because Quick Step have got 3 strong riders behind, and if Gilbert didn't feel so good, then he'd maybe start missing turns and looking for the opportunity of bringing the likes of Bonin, Trentin and Tertz round to play.
Coming up to the penultimate climb of the day, the Carnamelk Bekstraat, 1.5 kilometers long. Want to have a go pronouncing that one?
I thought you'd done an okay job without even drinking.
Yeah, they could hardly get that
beer.
one on the one page, could they? It's more syllables than anyone would care to manage. Sepp van Mark, disappointing day for him so far, finds himself distanced, and well, where is that big win coming from? Has in the last couple of days had a bit of a dicky time. Remember, his body is recovering from that rib injury sustained a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of this classic season left. He'd trade an E3 for a Gent Wevelgem, or perhaps even a Ronde van Vlaanderen. That's what it's going to be at the moment.
What Van Mark needs to do now is realise that he's got 2 strong teammates in Van Baarle and Langeveld behind. He's been distanced. He's not got the legs to go with the strongest riders that were in that group. So I think that's why he's kind of sitting on, because there's still an opportunity that Cannondale can still feature well in this race. They'll have 3 riders in front and in the kind of main group just behind. It's only 1 minute and 12 seconds. So if they combine well enough together, this race could not be over yet. But it's going to be a hard chase, if any, if Nason, Gilbert and Van Avermaet are brought back.
Climb number 14 of 15 of the day. Nason finds himself on the front. Philippe Gilbert in second place. And the man with the big advantage, Greg Van Avermaet, well, he's got 2 things in his favour. 1, he is one of the most powerful cyclists in world road racing. 2, he's also one of the best sprinters. And of the 3, he's, no doubt about it, he's the fastest finisher. So Nason and Gilbert know that they've got to distance Van Avermaet if they're to take victory in Harelbeke today. Durbridge doesn't seem to be able to get back in, and another climb is not going to suit him. You feel that if he's going to get back on, he needs to do it before a climb and hope that there's a cessation of hostilities, and that's hardly likely to happen, is it? Still, he will believe, and still he will push on. Van Avermaet goes to the front, tracked by Philippe Gilbert. Where's the attack going to come? So far too far out?
Yeah, this is where Sagan and Kwiatkowski went on the attack last year and held off the group by all a matter of, I think it was 10 seconds to take the win for Kwiatkowski. Tony Martin's still there in this group. This is De Vries and Van Mark. Van Mark has got 2 teammates in this group, which will bring them into play now that they've been brought back.
So 1 chaser in between as far as we can make out. I haven't heard about anyone else at the moment. Feline goes to the front again. He's shown, we think there might be 2 in between. Certainly Luke Durbridge is the lone chaser.
Is with him.
Oh, and Lucas Postelberger
is
right.
with Durbridge. The 2 of them are only within about 30 seconds of the 3 riders in front.
So if there's any breakdown in communication between the 3 up front, well, there's still plenty to fight for, and that's what they've got to hope for, that Van Avermaet's fabled sprint could well become a factor, and the other riders decide to attack him. But when's that going to happen? Could well be a while before we start to see attacks from the trio up front, because this is a big group chasing. Still only 1 minute and 21 seconds down, and still almost 30 kilometers to go. It's been all action. It really has kicked off a good bit out again. It's great. It
is, but Fellaini is hurting a lot of the riders. You can just look behind. Trentin is just sitting there. Tony Martin's there, John Degenkolb. And when we go over the top of this climb, who is left to chase? That's it. It's 1 rider. Fellaini is not going to bring back the riders in front, so they're going to have help from other riders. And when this group came together, there were numbers for Cannondale now, but I think they're kind of hanging on the back of this group. T-Spinut is on his own, so I don't think he's going to ride. So it's in a difficult situation. The riders behind, and I can't see anything denting the hopes of these 3 riders to fill the first 3 spots in the podium today. Well, one suspects there's going to have to be a little bit of cooperation between riders who see themselves as leaders if they're going to close down these riders up front, who are the leaders, with
An advantage that is starting to extend. The crowds are huge, as well they might be on Friday afternoon in Belgium. 1 minute and 23 seconds to the good. Greg van Avermaet on the front. Philippe Gilbert next up. Oliver Nassen, perhaps the least well known, but certainly in top classics form at the moment. The man from Tour Le Mondial. And Gilbert, well, he's on flying form. It's great to see him racing the Flanders Classics with such facility.
Yeah, he's looked pretty impressive. Back to probably near as close to his best as I've seen him over the last few years. Although you see glimpses of it when he wins races, but I think Gilbert is happy to have the Belgian Champions jersey on in these races. It's just super. Yeah, he looks in very good form. Yeah, he looks in very good form. But I wouldn't like to question or say that anyone's better than the other riders round about him. Nassen, Van Avermaet, and Gilbert can finish well, and it's going to be an interesting final 25 kilometres. Are we going to see attacking? I think it's going to be late. They've got 43 seconds in Posselberger and Durbridge, and they're combining well enough together, so they can't hang around. If they want the first 3 spots in the podium, they're going to have to combine. I think we're going to see it getting maybe a little bit more tactical inside the last 10 kilometres.
Update, 43 seconds to the chasers, so they have 3 riders up front have really extended their advantage. As you might expect, they were the strong men. They managed to distance themselves on climb a couple of climbs ago, and well, they've made the most of that. Up to 43 seconds. They're pressing on. Lucas Posselberger in the company of Luke Durbridge, but it's only going one way for them, and looks like they could well be picked up by the remains of the peloton. How long before that happens? Van Avermaet gets the food in. It's 206 kilometers this race. It's dropped down to around about 194 kilometers, was the shortest edition back in the early years of this century, about 12, 14 years ago. And then they've extended it. And now it's become very much a mini Tour of Flanders. Some riders say that in many ways it's just that little bit tougher to get round, because all those various Hellingen and cobbled stretches come thick and fast with so little respite in between. For all that, there's a bit of a gap between the last climb and the run to home, and that does allow some riders who've been struggling to get back into position. The final climb of the day is the Tegenberg, and that's reached with just over 18 kilometers remaining in the bike race. Chase Group 3 on the road, making inroads into the 2 riders up front, but the 3 ahead of them are still going away.
There's actually 4 Cannondales in here.
So that's surely them.
4.
Yeah.
And okay, Van Mark has got some sore legs, but why aren't they trying to do something?
It's a strength thing, sure.
Yeah, they're probably thinking now, for points, and I know a lot of teams think that way, but Quick Step have got riders in the front. Astana have got 2 riders, and they're just thinking, with having 5 riders in front of them, there's some points left to get back. But surely they should put maybe 1 or 2 riders in front, maybe try and bring back Durbridge and also Posselberger, and try and ride them back and try and go for 4th, because at the moment they're going for 6. And just as we're saying that, they want to get involved and do a bit of a chase, because this gap is creeping up to the front. I think the race is gone for them, but having 4 riders in this front group, Van Mark obviously accepts that he was there, he never has the legs, and now he's coming to do a bit of teamwork for these other 3 teammates.
They've changed things around a little bit, but Van Mark willing to do the legwork, and that's it's great team play from him, but they're going to have to do it pretty quick, because that little momentary hiatus, saw Luke Rowe, I believe, for Team Sky, just getting on the radio back to the team car just to try and get some instructions. And are the instructions to ride? Servais Knaven will probably say ride and ride hard. 24 kilometers remaining. riding tempo at this moment. Tempo plus a bit. Van Avermaet, plenty of conversation between the three. They're encouraging each other. They're trying to keep, they're very much cohorts at the moment. That will change between now and the end, especially if they manage to hang on out front. At the moment, well, few would bet against it. Looking good for those three up front, and how long before the group behind pick up Luke Durbridge and Lucas Postelberger? Well, I suspect that they will have been given a little bit of a reprieve themselves. Through the next section of cobbles, the Varant Strut. Fully 2 kilometres of pain and suffering. Let's see who's the strong man here. Oliver Nassen fancies himself.
You can see they put barriers up in the left-hand side. They're trying to stop them from using the... I wouldn't say it's pavements, because it's just dirt. It's just flattened dirt to the left-hand side. But yeah, that's what they're trying to do. This is a fairly long section, so they put these barriers to stop them from going on to the walking area, we'll call it.
When a dirt ditch represents some relief, they'll give you some idea of the sort of battering they're getting from these cobbles. Plenty of barriers in evidence, plenty of controversy indeed at the outset of the classic season about riders taking to the path on the sides of the cobbles and taking advantage, and the organisers have, well, they've taken measures, haven't they? And it's worked so far. Worked in this situation indeed for these three riders up front. They're keeping to the cobbles, keeping it clean, keeping it straight. Indeed, the riders have kept clean today because the weather's been good, and that will have just made everyone just that little bit happier. Hasn't affected the racing. The quality of the racing has been exceptional today.
Yeah, it has been good, and I think it was the big battle to the Teinberg. We saw Tom Boonen come towards the fore, and then the race was in pieces afterwards, and unfortunately we've lost a few riders today. Off to hospital was Tony Gallopin from Lotto Soudal. They have only got Thijs Benoot now towards the front of this race. It's been a a dreadful couple of days for them, with Eduardo Flandern as well. Then we had Pires Sagan crash and got mechanical, so he won't feature towards the end of this race. So there's been a lot of kind of crashes, nervous moments, but definitely three strong riders at the front of this race, with the Belgian champion Gilbert, Greg Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion, and Oliver Nassen at the back for AG2R. So these three riders look as if they'll fight out the top three places, and I wouldn't like to bet on any of them because they look strong enough. All three can finish well, and this is sort of race when you've already been racing from the Teinberg, and the Teinberg came with 72 kilometres ago, and they were racing before that. So for the last 80 kilometres they've been full gas. We got over the top of the Tegenberg with 18 kilometres to go, and it's 9%, 6.5 average with 9% maximum gradients on it, but I don't think it'll be too distant. We saw the other day in Eduardo Flandern, Gilbert tried to go on the last climb. Will he today? He might test them out. I think he will.
There is no way that Philippe Gilbert, a rider of his class and ability, his attacking instinct and his ability to sustain an attack, and indeed the strength that he's displaying today and through the week, there's no way that he is going to take Greg Van Avermaet to the line and bet on his sprint and just be delighted with a third place or a second place finish, because that's what he would be betting on. At the moment, down to or up to 54 seconds. Tell you what, they're managing to hold off the group behind. There must be, well, so little cooperation. Somebody's found their way onto the left-hand side. Trentin finds a little bit of difficulty, so Quick Step stay. A little bit of difficulty for them, and well, Trentin almost managed to get into the lead group earlier on one of the climbs. I can't remember which one at this point, but he was in good position, just found himself distanced, and that was the key moment for him, because at that moment they had got a couple of riders in.
I tell you who's done a very good ride today, and we've not even mentioned him, the rider from Bahrain, Merida at the back, Sonny Colbrelli. Stage win in Paris-Nice, got some good form, but he's still in the front of this race, and he's a young rider, plenty, a big future ahead of him. He can sprint well, strong, and nice to see him get over the cobbles well as well.
Three riders up front with just over 20 kilometres remaining have established a 2-minute advantage over Group 3 on the road. Group 2 about a minute down, and that's Luke Durbridge and Lucas Posselberger. Durbridge from Orica Scott, the Austrian. Posselberger from Bora Hansgrohe. The squad of Peter Sagan. No luck for Sagan today. Found himself caught behind. Didn't quite have the strength to go with the leaders, and then, well, no inroads being made by that group, and then he finds himself caught up in a crash. So difficult moment for the world champion, but well, he'll live to fight on, and he will race again, Gent-Wevelgem, on Sunday and through the classic season, and he will race and attack, no doubt. Will there be any attacking out of this group? Well, will there be any racing? Feline still on the front, driving along. It's a solo effort for him in so many ways. No real contribution from the Cannondale dropback squad. Well, I say that, but Sepp van Mark did try to contribute a little while ago. Alberto Bettiol here at the back of the group finds himself unable or unwilling to make the effort. AG Tour Le Mondial find themselves with a great opportunity. Julien Jourdain in the car for the French squad, supporting Oliver Nassen, their Belgian rider. He's just 26 years of age, so he's youngest rider of this trio. Won the Breton Classic West France last year, and of course second in the Eneco Tour, so he likes racing in this part of the world. Not afraid of a little bit of wind. Wind hasn't really been a huge factor today.
No, not at all, and it's I don't think it'll be much of a factor in the run in towards the finish either.
It's about pure brute strength and intelligence. I think that's the way to describe it. It's gone up to 1:13, so no letting up from the riders up front. At what point do they start to think about just managing their energy resources a little bit, throttling back a little bit with each turn? You know, they're still pressing home their advantage. At what point do they think, well, we have enough, let's just hold what we have?
Well, I think they're already thinking about it now. This is the last climb. Will Gilbert try something? You know that the gap is going up to about a minute to the two behind, and then 2 minutes. Doesn't look as if he will. Looks as if they're going to go over the top of the climb. Just to say that Gilbert goes on the left-hand side.
Well, it had to happen, didn't it? And Philippe Gilbert has attacked. Greg Van Avermaet was waiting for it. He's all over that one. And Nassen is finding himself struggling a little bit to get back in the wheel. But, well, he's getting there. Is he getting there? Greg Van Avermaet is right all over this one. He is all over Philippe Gilbert. And that is not what Philippe Gilbert wanted to see. He'll go and go again. And this climb is going to be the Waterloo for Oliver Nassen, unless something extraordinary happens with the two up front. 3 become 2. Gilbert looks around and he's hardly grimacing. He's grimacing now, though, isn't he? As the gradient really starts to bite, as the crowds start to mass towards the top of the climb, Nassen is absolutely emptying himself because he knows he's got to get back, and he's got to get back quickly. It's not the longest climb in the world, but it's still going to feel, well, it's going to feel like Alpe d'Huez right now to Oliver Nassen. Just 1,000 metres in total. They're over the top of it, but there's a little bit of a gap there. Those two riders will ride.
Yeah, I think Nassen will come back. It's just unfortunate. I tell you what, on that climb, the amount of motorbikes that were in front of that, you know, Philippe Gilbert when he attacked there, and I believe that Philippe Gilbert got some assistance there from the position of the motorbikes, which I don't like to see it. Unfortunately for Nassen, he was distanced and didn't get that benefit, and he's got to close this gap, as you say, Declan, very, very quickly. I think he will, but that was a big attack there by Philippe Gilbert.
Well, you knew it was coming, but even if you know, there's not always anything you can do about it. The motorbike's, of course, hot topic in cycling at the moment.
They knew what was going to happen. We were suspecting Gilbert was going to go. They were all across the front. Gilbert, it wasn't his fault. He's attacking, but he goes, you know, he's getting the benefit of being that much closer to the bikes in front of him, which maybe made a distance of about 20-30 metres to Nassen, which meant that Nassen would have probably been back to them already. Unfortunately for Nassen, he's had a hard chase, but yeah, this race is not over. We're going to see some other attacks as we start heading in towards the finish.
Well, I think Nassen is going to get back in, so that could be a massive relief to him, because it doesn't look as if they're really pushing hard. And Philippe Gilbert, well, he's not with Greg Van Avermaet on his wheel, going to use all his matches just to keep Oliver Nassen behind. He would be, well, I think second or third. Really doesn't matter to Philippe Gilbert. It's all about the win. Greg Van Avermaet, is he's just riding through to maintain the tempo. He knows that's his responsibility, really. He knows, they know he's the best sprinter, so he knows that they know that he's got to do something. He's got to show willing and show that he's willing to use a little bit of energy just to keep up the pace, keep the tempo of this group.
Yeah, I think they both know now that Nason is just struggling a little bit, but he can play with that. The fact is he was dropped there and they know he's dropped. He can start to play games with him and try and miss some turns, try and lull them into, well, you dropped me in that last climb, I may not have the legs, but if Nason was to go inside the last 3 kilometres and Gilbert and Greg Van Avermaet look at each other, he could pull off the win. So there's a lot of thinking, a process here, but Nason is definitely not out of this.
Well, he's going to miss a few turns. He's had to chase back on, and as you say, he was the man who was dropped, so they know he's not quite as strong as they are. Yeah, so his disadvantage could become his advantage tactically.
That's what you have to use. You have to think about, how can I win this bike race today? And at that, being dropped, it's probably helped Nason a little bit. He can afford to, and the other two are thinking, well, it's a battle between the Belgian champion and the Olympic champion. Probably put Nason at the back of their minds, and you cannot do that because Nason could go ahead and win this race today.
Well, Gilbert looks across as if to say, anytime you like, you're more than willing. Picking up texts, getting a few selfies. Well, the fans thrilled to be in on the action. And Gilbert, Van Avermaet and Nason are not even thinking about that. They're only thinking about each other. They're thinking about the final 10 miles. 16 kilometres remaining, 2:14 to the, well, erstwhile group of favourites. You can forget about them in terms of challenging for victory now. The group in between, 2 riders strong. Last time we heard well over a minute between these 3 up front and Lucas Posselberger and indeed Luke Durbridge.
All Nason has to do now is pull faces and you know, go through every now and again, try and save as much, because he knows he's probably the weakest of the 3 in front, and that can play to his advantage. We've already kind of mentioned that. So if I was Nason, I'd pull some faces, I'd look bad, I would maybe do a couple of turns just to make sure that they're okay, and possibly inside the last 3, maybe 2 kilometres, if it is still together, bang, and try and win the race.
Well, no climb's worth a mention between here and the finish, so what does Philippe Gilbert do? He needs to try and pull a bit of an ambush.
Look at a couple of years ago when Geraint Thomas won it. He just put in an attack, and it opened up a gap about 2 or 3 metres, and it wasn't closable. When we get into the finish, because we were off all the climbs and they're having to ride fairly hard in towards the finish, their legs will be screaming, and all it needs is having that small gap. And you saw Gilbert when he went on it, he went flat out. Greg Van Avermaet went straight after him. He couldn't give him an inch, and I don't think the 2 Belgians in front are going to give each other an inch.
Philippe Gilbert, Greg Van Avermaet and Oliver Nassen set to contest the first 3 positions in E3 Harelbeke for 2017. But in what order? 2:16 to the big group behind, and they've got a significant chunk on the 2 riders who were their erstwhile breakaway companions. As well, the word comes up to Philippe Gilbert. How are you going to play this one? Yeah,
Tom Steels is just telling them that the gap, that's what they want to know. They want to know how much time they've got to play around here. Whether to keep the pressure on or ease it back, as you were saying. When is the time to ease it back and try and save something? Because each of these 3 riders inside the last 15 kilometres are trying to think how they can win this race today.
Yeah, each of them wants to save the energy, and Greg Van Avermaet,
you're the champion, you're the Olympic champion, I get dropped there. This is where the games have started already. I think Nason has to ride a couple of, just to keep them happy, keep them off his back. But no, sometimes if you rattle them a little bit, then it means that you can play that cards. But
do the odd turn, a little bit of glass cranking, just
yes, that's what you do. This is what he's doing now. He's doing, look, I was dropped in that last one. Just do a bit of, as you say, glass cranking and keep them happy. Greg Van Avermaet was already having a go at him, so you do a little bit. But yeah, Nason is not out of this race at all. He can surprise them. It does look as if Greg Van Avermaet and Gilbert are fairly evenly matched, and it's difficult to say, yet with under 14 kilometres to go, of all three of these riders, who's going to win this race?
1:36 now, we're getting confirmed as the gap between these three up front and Posselberger and Durbridge behind. They're pretty much out of it, and Nassen is the key here, isn't he? Every time he rides through, it presents an opportunity to Philippe Gilbert, because he's third in line at the time that Nassen's on the front. So if there's any little bit of a moment just to get just a couple of bike lengths advantage over Greg Van Avermaet, and you just sense that he's thinking about it right now.
Well, you see when Gilbert attacked in the final climb, Van Avermaet straight on him. I don't think Gilbert or Van Avermaet will have both eyes on Nassen, which gives them a slight advantage. He only needs to duck and dive a little bit, do his turn, not force it. And I think that's what Gilbert was asking. He was asking the cars, what's the gap back? Because he knows he's up against it if he wants to win this race. He's up against the Olympic champion. And this is going to be fascinating as we ride in towards the 10-kilometre go board.
I'd say Greg Van Avermaet would like to put himself in between Nassen and Philippe Gilbert in the rotation here. It's not significant, there's so few riders, but just might offer that one bike length advantage if Gilbert is able to spring a surprise from the back of the group. If you see him drop off by even half a bike length, it could well indicate that he's just going to try one. You feel that he has to. Nassen too, as you say, has the only way he's going to win this race, and you got to be in it to win it. He's in it at the moment, he's right there with them, so he'll be thinking about the win, but the only way he's going to win is if he gets clear of these other two riders, and he depends on a dispute between them. They eyeball each other for more than a few seconds, especially if it's within the last few kilometres. Oliver Nassen could well be in the frame here. It's advantage to Greg Van Avermaet though, because if it comes to the line all three, well, he has the best sprint. Surely though, he's the one that's going to have to close all the gaps. If they, they could, you would imagine that Nassen and Gilbert, if they've got the strength, should at least try to double team him a bit.
We can sit all day and talk about it, Declan, but only they know what's going to happen, and this is what we're waiting for on the edge of the seats. I cannot see the three of them coming together for a sprint finish, because as you say, Greg Van Avermaet you would think would be the fastest of the finishers of the three of the riders in front. And the other thing is Greg Van Avermaet had a bit of a cold, never rode Dwardor Vlaanderen a couple of days ago, but by the looks of today, he looks as he's in fine fettle. So Gilbert is, I think, going through the thought process now of how he can win this race today.
Gilbert rolls to the front. Greg Van Avermaet puts himself in between Nassen and Gilbert and rolls through.
The other thing to throw in the mix was, if Gilbert was confident in the sprint, he wouldn't have attacked in that last climb. So Gilbert knows that he's up against Greg Van Avermaet. He's not guaranteed to win.
He is a fast finisher, Gilbert.
Yeah, of course he is,
yeah.
and he's very capable of beating. You look at Kwiatkowski and Sagan coming to the finish last year. Kwiatkowski won it by 4 seconds. Sagan, I don't know what he was doing last year. He just kind of burnt out all his matches, but similar could happen today. So it's going to be a fascinating last 10 kilometres. They know they've got enough time now to sit back and look. It's going to become very tactical, and the thought process is they're thinking all the time what they can do, getting closer to the finish. And I think for Greg Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion at front for BMC, he would like it to come to a sprint, because he is probably the favourite of the three riders in front. Nassen is thinking, looking for this opportunity, and so is Philippe Gilbert.
Well, of course, Greg Van Avermaet had that great victory in Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne. The day before, of course, Peter Sagan, three riders went to the line. There were no real attacks between them, and there was a sense of frustration, certainly frustration from Peter Sagan, that the attacks just never materialised. I don't believe, with the composition of this group, though, that we're not going to see at least one or two skirmishes.
Look, there will be occasions, there come occasions with 10 kilometres to go now, that teams behind will say, podium is good. And you mentioned that time about the Het Nieuwsblad when Van Mark never went through, and were they happy with that podium position? That's what you have to consider. What's happening in team cars behind? Are they happy with a podium? Are they going to try and win? And I think the riders in the breakaway are going to try and win this race today.
Inside 10 kilometres to go in E3 Harelbeke for 2017. 3 riders up front, still managing that 1.5 minute gap to the 2 riders. Their breakaway companions, erstwhile, Lucas Posselberger and Luke Durbridge. Well, they've closed the gap by just a few seconds, but it's not significant. So there's enough effort going into the pedals from Philippe Gilbert on the front here in the Belgian national champions colours. Greg van Avermaet in the sunglasses, the white sunglasses. On the right-hand side, a picture from BMC. And Oliver Nassen, young interloper, 26 years of age, on flying form at the moment for AG2R. Didn't look so strong on the final climb, but managed to get himself back to the 2 up front. So that makes it a trio. Group 3 have closed to within 2 minutes, so it's coming down a little bit as you sense that they're not absolutely flat chat here, but they have put so much effort in, mates, and well, they've got to try and save something for the big push. Drinks going on board for Greg van Avermaet, stalking Philippe Gilbert, the danger man.
Got to feel sorry for Durbridge and Posselberger, because I very much doubt they'll be able to hold off that Group 3, that main group with John Degenkolb behind, because it does look as if they could be caught before the finish, which means the group behind will be racing for 4th place.
Yeah, 4th place is big World Tour points, as you say. The way the teams are focusing on, you know, racing for minor positions and the big haul of points, it's something that's been a bit of a discussion in cycling over the last couple of years. Do you think the UCI need a bit of an adjustment to the points, the way that the points are allocated?
I think they have to look at it. I think we've discussed this before about the UCI points and how they you get big points for the you know, the Grand Tours, and you know, some of the other races you get big points, other them get small points, and yeah, that's, if you want to stay in the top 18 of the World Tour teams, you have to get points, and so that's what the teams start to think. That's the way they have been thinking for the last few years. I like to see people racing and you know, just racing for the best possible place they can get, and actually racing for the win. But I think Gilbert is one of these racers. Greg's Van Avermaet's a racer, so is Oliver Nassen. We've got 3 racers, and this is great. 3 racers trying to win a big Belgian race, and no one's made the, well, Gilbert made an effort in the last climb, but in the last 10 kilometres everybody's waiting for their opportunity, and we're going to see a race for the win, which is, I think, is great.
Well, it's not going to be contested by 5-time champion Tom Bonin, who's picked up in the group of chasers. 3rd group on the road. And as you say, they've got about just under 30 seconds to close on that duo in between themselves and these 3 leaders at the front of affairs. Just over 4 miles left for Oliver Nassen. Philippe Gilbert now on the front, and Gilbert's eyeballing Nassen to see what sort of clues and signals he's getting. Greg van Avermaet, something similar, trying to keep Nassen encouraged, and by the same token trying to accumulate as much information, so Nassen will be pulling faces.
That's all he can do, and I think he's recovered a little bit now. He's doing his turn at the front now, but the pace is not super high. It would be different if the group was within a minute behind, but they've got a minute and 26 to Durbridge and Posselberger, almost 2 minutes to the Boonen group, so they can afford to finesse a little bit.
When does the attack come? Who does it come from first? Maybe it'll come from Greg van Avermaet first. Attack is the best form of defence, maybe. I wouldn't bet on it.
I think of all 3 riders, Van Avermaet would be the happiest to see it come to a sprint. The other 2 not, so it's up to them. If they want to try and win this race, they'll have to think of the opportunity, but Greg van Avermaet is going to come through, do his turn. This man distanced in the last climb, but managed to come back. So 3 very strong riders at the front of E3 Harelbeke.
And what are the messages coming from the Quick Step team car, indeed any of the 3 team cars? Are they
can't do anything now, Declan.
Will they leave it up to their riders? Let them decide?
They have to. The tactics have been given last night. You can encourage them, but when you get into the last 10 kilometres, 3 riders, it's the feel. It's you have to be in that group of 3 to feel how the others are going, where there is an opportunity, and that's why we're seeing the cars just sit. They're not popping around. They're not popping out trying to look at the other riders. there's 3 experienced riders here, and
they have to trust them.
They have to trust them. Yeah, there'll be very little information coming. Maybe some time checks coming now from the team cars. That's it, just time checks. Everything else will be down to the rider now.
Well, there'll be a level of satisfaction among the 3 teams, Quick-Step Floors, AG2 Orla Mondial and BMC, that they've managed to get riders into the winning move. The question is, the nerves will be jangling too, won't they? Because nothing less than a victory will offer them satisfaction. All 3 riders at this point look as if they are, what are we going to say, guaranteed top 3 finishing positions. Well, I'd be inclined to commit to that one at this point, always assuming that they do ride it through to the finish. Nassen goes to the front through that left-hander. Will we see? Well, Van Avermaet puts himself in prime position to defend any attack. Sometimes on the way into a corner, or any technical section can offer an opportunity. Rider might attack into a corner or just coming off it if there's a little bit of a gap. The wind, a bit of a headwind there, so that's not going to be easy for any prospective lone attack. 5k to go. Still, Van Avermaet's going for the gels, going for the drinks. He won't be found wanting. Is there a sense that he might be just a little bit knocked, or feeling it a little bit more than any of the others were looking for clues? You'll only really know when you see the finish line what the truth is. Well, Van Avermaet did a monstrous amount of work when he managed to get himself in position in that group of 12, which was composed of 6 riders that left the peloton and 6 riders that were mopped up from the early break. Those 6 strong men whittled down to 3 up front. And it's, well, balmy sunshine, isn't it? It's beautiful spring, late winter, whatever you call it, haze over Harelbeke. 26,000 people live in this this part of Belgium, northwest Belgium. This race first run in 1958, originally called the Harelbeke to Antwerp and back. Then in about 1960 it became the E3. It's been a World Tour race since 2012. Fastest edition back in 2003, almost 46 kilometers an hour for Steven de Jong. I don't think we're going to see anything like that. Indeed, we haven't in recent years. First winner was a Belgian, Armin Deadman, and as I said, they've won 37 times over the years. But that last Belgian victory back in 2012, that's going to be changed this year. Most accomplished in this race among those riders is Greg Van Avermaet, sitting at the back of the group. He's a 3rd place finish from 2008. Van Avermaet would dearly like to convert that. Just over 3,000 meters remaining in E3 Harelbeke. Inside 2 minutes advantage for the riders. Well, it's a total of 2 minutes to Group 3 on the road. Would be interesting to know whether Posselberger and Durbridge have managed to fend off the Group 3, the bigger group, and indeed whether they're making any inroads on this group. One suspects that it's not significant, otherwise we would have got a time gap. And Oliver Nassen still showing willing. I think of the 3, he'd be probably the most satisfied with a 3rd place finish. It would certainly represent a step up for him. To have made it into the group contesting the win of a major one-day classic is a step up for him. It's been coming. I mean, it has been flagged. He's been very strong in recent times, but he's certainly the least accomplished of the 3. So 3rd place finish, if it comes to be, would be satisfying for him. So he might be the least minded to try and attack. Also, he may already be satisfied with what he's got and may try it, but I think it's the old story, isn't it? Both Gilbert and Nassen would like the other to do the attack first.
Yeah, I think they're waiting for it. Gilbert's waiting for it. Greg Van Avermaet, I don't think he'll be attacking today, but I think all 3 riders, all 3 teams will be happy with a podium. Still don't know, just over 2 kilometers, 2,000 meters and we'll find out, but they're starting to ride a little bit cagey now. I'm kind of surprised that Nassen has not really tried something yet.
It was interesting on Wednesday that Philippe Gilbert attacked first, and then Yves Lampert was the one to benefit. He went next and got what turned out to be the winning attack. May have been a sense of frustration for Gilbert. Doesn't want to attack first now. He wants to do the second run. Well, 1,700 meters left. If they're going to do it, it has to come soon. who's going to draw the sting out of Greg Van Avermaet. We're assuming that that's the way it's going to be played, that we're going to see at least something. But Greg Van Avermaet, well, would he be minded to try a late attack? Surely he'll bet on his sprint. In Curran, Brussels Curran, well, up a hill, round a corner. Tough finish, but not found wanting. Managed to get ahead of Peter Sagan. Gilbert, now the finessing begins. 1,000 metres remaining.
This is an opportunity for Nason now. Just let the Gilbert and Van Avermaet start to play around.
Gilbert doesn't want to sit on the front. Looks like he's going to have to. Greg Van Avermaet, if an attack comes, will feel the responsibility of covering it. There's no question, I think, of Philippe Gilbert covering an Oliver Naesen attack.
I think that's his best chance if Naesen does go for a long one. That with 1 kilometre to go now, that he leaves it for Greg Van Avermaet, but it's looking highly possible now that these 3 riders are going to contest it in the sprint, which is a little bit of a surprise.
Unusual finish, isn't it, through a housing estate, but it's a welcome one if you happen to live in this housing estate, to see 3 of the best riders in world cycling coming past your house and heading towards the finish line. Less than 1,000 metres remaining. They're almost down to
opportunity for Naesen now. What's he doing? Have a go.
Well, Philippe Gilbert wants him to do it. Nasen's covering Gilbert. Somebody is going to step. Of course, they don't want to give up what they have, and 2 minutes is a massive advantage. So you don't think about Moreno Argentine ambushing Stephen Roach and Philip Anderson all the way back in the 1980s.
Naesen needs to go. He needs to have a crack now, but he's just moved over and went to the back. So he must think he's recovering well enough to try and win the race from a sprint.
Well, Naesen wants to bet on his sprint. Maybe he's right. So maybe Philippe Gilbert is just going to have to suck it up and go for it himself. Well, we're in the finishing cameras, so we're into the finishing straight. And Philippe Gilbert, this one is going to be from a crawl. Who's going to kick it off? It's going to be a tense finale. It's going to be a slow start to the sprint. Who's that going to suit? The one with the biggest kick, the one that can open a couple of bike lengths advantage just with the instant recruitment of fast twitch muscle fibers. Who has got the most strength left after 206 kilometers of racing? Philippe Gilbert's like a trackman as Naesen goes. Naesen fires. That could be to the advantage of Gilbert, but has he got the strength to hold off Greg Van Avermaet? Van Avermaet struggling to get into the wheel of Oliver Naesen. He's got a couple of bike lengths advantage. Well, it's a long way to go to the line to hold off a rider of the quality of Greg Van Avermaet, but he's struggling to get there. Will he make it? He certainly will. Here comes Gilbert on the line. Who got it? I'm not sure who it was. Greg Van Avermaet believes it. It is him. E3 Harelbeke goes to Greg Van Avermaet. Philippe Gilbert not quite got enough on the line. Oliver Naesen will be satisfied with third, but Greg Van Avermaet had everything that was required to win that race. He had the strength to go with the top attacks. He had the strength to keep those riders away, and he had the speed and the strength to produce the winning sprint. They're surprised that we didn't have any attacks at the late show, but it was an incredibly close finale, and they gave up a large amount of their advantage. So Luke Durbridge is going to lead Lucas Posselberger to the line, but no doubt about the man that got the win, Greg Van Avermaet.
Yeah, you could see the reaction. He was really happy with that one. Close in the end with Gilbert, but just as we're seeing the riders coming up, I think that's Michael Valgren just for Astana there. And we've mentioned already Barry and Merida had a rider in that chasing group there. But going back to the Colbrelli it was that finished there, but that meant a lot to him. I think Gilbert made one mistake. If I could criticise him, one, he was in probably too big a gear when he reacted to the sprint there. You could see that Naesen is in a smaller gear when he started his sprint. You see it now, smaller gear. But just watch Gilbert now. He was in a bigger gear, which he had to really push, and he left himself a lot to do now. He just comes up, tries to reach 75 metres to go. He's coming all the time. Gilbert looked super strong, but it just came up too short in the end. I think the mistake that Gilbert made there was he just went into that sprint from a kind of almost standing start or rolling start in too big a gear. And Greg Van Avermaet just had that jump. But hats off to Naesen. He just saved everything he could, every ounce of energy to try and win that from a sprint. We knew that he was the weakest of the three, but yeah, Greg Van Avermaet wins for the first time here today.
Van Avermaet gets the win in E3, Harelbeke 2017. He punches the air. A successful year already for Greg Van Avermaet, and well, we're only in March. Immediate congratulations from Philippe Gilbert.
Nu de E3. Het scheelde niet veel in die sprint. Gilbert kwam nog heel erg opzetten.
Ja, Philippe heeft ook een sterke sprint en zeker niet onderschatten. Dus moest echt wel goed timen. En Ollie ging van ver aan en ik was hem even kwijt. Maar dan wist ik als ik hem in de slipstream kon pakken dat het nog moeilijk ging zijn om echt over mij te komen. En van de sprint zijn we niet zeker.
De wedstrijd vroeg opengebroken. Zo koers je graag natuurlijk.
Ja, het was plezant. Hè. Dat was echt geamuseerd. Ik denk dat ja, zo gemakkelijk koersen is en mannen die willen rijden. Ik denk dat de sterkste 3 op het podium staan. Dat ze alle 3 wel verdienen om iets om te winnen. Maar ik kan maar spijtig genoeg maar 1 winnen.
Er was wat oneenigheid op een bepaald moment toen er gedemareerd werd, nog vrij ver voor de streep.
Ja, iedereen speelt zijn eigen kansen natuurlijk. En veel trok stevig door op Tiegenberg. En dan weet je dat het moeilijk is. En Ollie was er dan even af. Dat is een moeilijke situatie ook voor mij, omdat we elke dag samen trainen. Maar in koers is het ieder voor zich. En het was al heel leuk om samen een keer op pad te zijn.
You know the saying about winning E3 Harelbeke with the Tour of Flanders in sight, then you're probably the main favorite.
Well, I don't know. I was every year really not so good here. Never really on the podium, and I was always good in Flanders. But like I said already, in Nieuwsblad, it's really nice to win a classic in Flanders. And for me, it's the first time E3. It's one of the nicest ones, I think, and so it gives a lot of confidence for Flanders. And I'm happy that I have 2 nice victories already in the pocket, and hopefully the third come next week.
One more question about your cold before the race. Apparently, you weren't hampered by that cold. How about your respiration during the race?
I was really happy about how I felt. I was directly from the beginning really good. Wednesday I didn't feel so good, but I'm really happy. It's not so bad.
Apparently. Many congratulations. Hartelijk proficiat.
Thank you.
Well, he's barely got time to celebrate the victory, but Greg Van Avermaet is being asked about his form for Ronde van Vlaanderen. And indeed, 5 times in the last 12 years, the winner of E3, Harelbeke, has gone on to win the Ronde van Vlaanderen. So let's not rule it out. The last man, Fabian Cancellara, Tom Bonen has done it. Both Cancellara and Bonen have done it a couple of times. Make that 3 for Bonen. There's confirmation of the top 10. Greg Van Avermaet takes A3, Harelbeke. Gilbert and Nassen make it a Belgian 1-2-3. Durbridge gets in ahead of Posselberger. Valgren leads in Colbrelli, Bonen. Van Barle and Alberto Bettiol gets up for a top 10 finish for Italy. Well, Van Avermaet is the satisfied rider. Superb performance leading in that Belgian 1-2-3 in E3. Well, he was the man with favourite status going to that finishing sprint. And he also becomes just the 4th rider to win Omloop Het Nussblad, or Het Volk as it was once called, and E3 Harelbeke in the same year, joining Arthur de Caboter in 1961, Freddie Martins in 1978, and Jan Raas 1981 in taking that rare double. But a sign that he's got superb form, and no sign of the cold that you mentioned on commentary, Brian. That has afflicted him in recent weeks. He's shaken that one off. Nothing like 206 kilometers flat chat to try and show that. Now, what does Philippe Gilbert have to say about his day's efforts?
Het zijn mooie koersen en ja, ik ben blij dat de conditie goed is. Maar eindelijk heb ik graag vandaag gewonnen. Maar ja, dat is zo. Tweede is ook ja, niet slecht. En we hebben een sterke koers gereden. Met onze 3 voorop. En ik denk dat het was weer mooi om te zien. Ja.
Hoeveel kwam je tekort? Want je kwam nog heel erg dicht bij Greg Van Avermaet.
Ja, ik was even verrast. En ja, ik was direct een paar lengten achter. Ik heb een sterke sprint gedaan, maar ja, natuurlijk, de meet was daar. En je kunt zeggen wat je wil. En je moet gewoon eerst voor de meet zijn. Hè.
Je hebt weer de verdienste dat je mee de wedstrijd hebt opengebroken. Ga je op die manier ook koersen in de Ronde van Vlaanderen?
Ja, dat is gewoon mijn manier van koersen. Als ik wacht ben ik altijd niet slecht, maar ook niet goed. Ik moet altijd agressief zijn.
Op een bepaald moment hadden jullie ruzie, hè? Bij manier van spreken. Jullie waren het oneens over hoe er gereden moest worden in het kopgroepje.
Wat bedoel je?
Ja, er werd getwijfeld, er werd wat gediscussieerd.
Ja, maar dat was ook... Ja, dat was ook in Waregem zo. Geen informatie bij de organisatie. Geen van de twee. Dus eindelijk weten we niks van de situatie. We moeten altijd rekenen op de auto's, maar soms zijn de auto's ver achter ons. En we begrijpen niet altijd. Dus zonder informatie is het altijd moeilijk. Dus soms hoor je van de verzorgers langs de baan 1 minuut. Maar ja, wat bedoel 1 minuut? Is dat op de achtervolging, op de groep achter ons? Hoeveel mannen? Je weet niks. Dus wij waren aan het spreken samen om te kijken naar die informatie waar dezelfde bij iedereen. En zo proberen onze inspanning te doseren.
Hartelijk dank en proficiat met die mooie tweede plaats, Philippe Gilbert. Dan gaan we door met de derde van de dag, Oliver Naassen. Ja, die sprint, je had ze heel...
Well, we didn't get to hear from Philippe Gilbert in English.
Ja, het was het enige wat ik kon doen. Ik was zeker, de twee waren zeker beter.
That he was
op Tegenberg.
bittersweet moment for him about Oliver Naassen. I'm sure he's happy.
Het beste met ijveren, maar op zo'n bergje, als ze echt ontploffen, Gilbert en gerecht, dan moest ik toch eens passen. Maar dan in de sprint, ja, het is het enige wat ik kon doen, van iets te ver aangaan. Direct met de knal een gatje maken, maar het is zoals op training. Het is nog nooit niet gelukt om gerecht voor te zijn en die losing streak, die gaat gewoon verder.
Heb je dan op een bepaald moment geen demarrage overwogen in volle finale?
Ja, met zo'n coureurs die kijken niet naar elkaar. Dus, dat is niet... Ja, je hebt zo'n paar niveaus van coureurs en die twee dat zijn er die op elk wiel springen. En, zelfs al demareren ik, kan gewoon niet rapper rijden dan hen. Dus dat was geen optie.
Dus je durfde er eigenlijk niet op speculeren dat ze het elkaar niet zouden gunnen, Gilbert en Van Aert?
Ik dacht gewoon dat ik het niet ging kunnen houden. dat was eigenlijk eerder het probleem. Maar ik had ook wel redelijk wat vertrouwen in de sprint. Het gaat mijn sprints zijn van tegenwoordig beter en beter. Ja, nu ook. Het was 20 meter te lang. Dat is niet... ik ben niet belachelijk gespurt ook, dus ik vond het een mooie poging.
Dit is de koers van de bevestiging voor jou. Er werd veel goeds van jou verwacht. Je hebt het helemaal waargemaakt. Met welke ambitie trek je nu naar de Ronde van Vlaanderen?
In mijn positie, in mijn ploeg. Ik ben sowieso de kopman samen met Stijn van den Berg. En de andere ploegen, die kijken niet naar ons. Dat weet ik zeker. Misschien verandert dat een klein beetje, omdat ik nu nog niet buiten de top 10 geweest ben in de klassiekers. Maar ik wil gewoon terug top 5, top 10 rijden. Ik heb het gevoel dat dat mijn plaats is. Derde, dat is nu wel een beetje boven de verwachtingen, maar... als je bij de 10 beste bent aan de start, dan kan er veel. Dat is wat ik altijd zeg en dat is ook gewoon zo. Dus dat is wel heel aangenaam koersen. Zo.
En ook heel aangenaam om te bekijken. Dikke koers, van harte proficiat.
Hartelijk bedankt, het was heel plezant.
Naassen fired first, but didn't quite have enough breakfast to get ahead of, indeed to hold off, Greg van Avermaet and Philippe Gilbert. So close at the line. But those standing start sprints, or almost standing start sprints, meat and drink to Greg van Avermaet. Great victory